in Konoha, starting by unlocking the Tenseigan. Hello again, dear adventurers of the multiverse. Thanks for joining us once more on this epic journey. Remember, this story is pure science fiction from our wild imagination, so don't go trying to summon dragons in your backyard. The rights of this amazing novel belong entirely to its original author. We are only the narrators. Do you want more adventures? Show some love to our YouTube channel with a subscription and a like, and if you want exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting for you with open arms. Chapter 51, Good legs must be used to pedal. You're so heartless. I thought after spending so many days together, our impressions of each other would have improved a bit, but it seems I was overthinking it again. Hearing Hyūga Teru's mumbling, Nono gave him a sullen look. I didn't force you to take the risk, and your intentions weren't pure to begin with. You deserved your death. Why should I be kind to you? Hyūga Teru nodded, feeling it made perfect sense. You're right, but I still have to go. No one wants to stay, so I can leave without any ties. Hyūga Teru finished, dressed, and headed out. But just as he was about to leave, Nono called out to him. Hey, do you have any money? Hyūga Teru turned and saw Nono's expression was a little strange, as if hesitant. Don't you know whether I have money or not? I've always told you how much I've earned these days, right? Nono lowered his head slightly, blushing. Even the old master Udafu would want to eat 5 or 6 bowls of white rice. She lifted her penis high towards Hyūga Teru. 10 million ryo once, but you'd better be gentle. Otherwise, if you die, I'll spit on your grave. Hyūga Teru was surprised she'd actually agreed, but without hesitation, he quickly turned and grabbed her foot. It seems you're not so unkind. Perhaps you're still a little reluctant to let me go. Nono immediately rolled her eyes. Don't be so self-righteous. I just think your death would be a huge waste of money. Rather than letting it go down the drain, I might as well make some more money. Hyūga Teru caressed her foot and deftly pulled out a pair of stockings, gazing at her legs before beginning. Honestly, no matter how many times I see them, I never get tired of them. Do you have any special maintenance methods for being so busy on the road? Yakashi Nono's legs, in stockings, looked slender and fuller. Beautiful, but not much better than those of Hinata Natsu or Yukito. But it was probably just a psychological effect. Looking at her legs, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but recall the thrills of the past. The feeling of reaching climax instantly upon grasping her feet seemed to return to his mind. While it wasn't particularly wonderful, it was still quite pleasant to savor once in a while. Feeling her feet begin to pedal again, Nono's expression darkened. I don't know what's going on in your head. How could you possibly be into this kind of thing? Did you seduce your maid? Hyūga Teru looked at Nono with amusement. Well, it's a personal matter, so don't ask too much, and even if it were as you thought, I can't go back now. I still need somewhere to relax and unwind, of course. With the Tenseigan technique, things had changed. Whether it was Konoha or the beach, he could go whenever he wanted. The reason he still coveted Yakashi Nono was because he thought it was fun. It was fun to play with her once in a while. Her expression of resistance, yet a resigned silence, was particularly exciting. As if sensing something strange in Hyūga Teru's expression, Nono immediately cast a suspicious glance at him. So, in your eyes, women are just for relaxation? Don't you have any feelings for women at all? Hyūga Teru was puzzled. After a moment's thought, he said, if you're talking about feelings, I guess I do. I like any beautiful woman, and if I have to take responsibility, I'd be happy to marry them all. Haven't I asked you several times before? If you don't want to agree, then I can't be responsible for you, pharmacist Nono. This answer seemed to leave Nono speechless. He didn't speak to Hyūga Teru again for the next hour. After they were done, Hyūga Teru actually gave her a lot of money. Hey, is that too much? It looks like it's over 10 million ryo. Nono, who had a very good understanding of money, quickly noticed something was wrong. However, Hyūga Teru persisted, taking the money from the scroll. This feels really good, so I'll give you a tip. I don't have any particular characteristics, but I'm just incredibly generous with my money. Besides, you need money, so just take it. We're already so familiar, why are you being so polite? But soon, Nono's hands could no longer hold the money. The amount of money kept piling up before her astonished eyes. From the originally agreed upon 10 million ryo, it gradually increased to 100 million ryo. Are you crazy? Giving me that much? It's not a big deal, is it? Hyūga Teru, however, stroked her head and looked at her seriously. Just take what I give you. I know whether it's worth that much. Money means nothing to me, people are what matter most. If you care about me so much, why take such a risk? Nono was even more confused. Suddenly, she even thought this man seemed quite attractive. But as soon as the words left her mouth, she felt something was wrong. Surprised at what she had said, she immediately covered her mouth. Seeing Nono's reaction, Hyūga Teru found it quite amusing. I say, don't you have some issues with your sexuality? Why do you seem quite feminine now, and even have feelings for me? However, Nono looked at him calmly. I'm just pretending. Only a dog would have feelings for you. I just think you're making a lot of money, and I don't want to lose a source of income. Hyūga Teru suddenly felt that Nono was somewhat contradictory and unreasonable. If he liked money so much, wouldn't he just marry him? Going through all this extra work is completely unnecessary. Or does she really have no feelings for him at all? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that women's hearts were complicated. But one thing was certain, this woman wasn't a bad person. After all, in the original story, she had become a spy for Danzo after retirement to increase funding for the orphanage. She might have been a murderous demon in the various ninja villages, but her love for children alone was enough to make Hyūga Teru reluctant to treat her too harshly. That was also why she could earn 100 million ryo with just one ride. While giving herself pleasure, she also did a good deed. It was a great deal, no matter how you slice it. Alright, but I won't give up on something I've already decided to do. You'd better get out of here soon, so I don't get in your way. Seeing that no matter how much she tried to persuade him, he wouldn't turn back, Nono turned around angrily. You're hopeless. If you want to go, go ahead. I don't want to stop you. But remember not to go to those special places I told you about. With a slightly contradictory statement, she walked into the bathtub and began to wash. Chapter 52, The Stolen Cloud Cow. In the pitch-black night, near the residence of a Kumagakure Junin, AI, now a towering figure, paced back and forth in the next room. Lord Raikage, there's still no activity from squads 2 through 15. Should we continue the ambush? A ninja suddenly knelt before AI to report. This made AI's already heaving chest heave even more violently. Keep investigating. While I've been injured, he's been committing crimes for so long. We must find him today. In just over 10 days, 10 Junin, both skilled and even more volatile than him, had died. How could he tolerate this? Furthermore, these men had been killed using Kumagakure-style lightning techniques. If it wasn't a skilled spy, it was likely someone from his own village. Ever since the destruction of the gold and silver lineages, Kumagakure had always been united and harmonious, and their unity had made them stronger. He truly wanted to see who was causing trouble in the village. Yes, the ninja replied, quickly disappearing into the darkness. AI gazed after the messenger ninja had gone. His gaze shifted towards the Jonin's quarters. Yet, all around him remained utterly silent. The Jonin in the room were breathing evenly, not a single movement. But the more this continued, the more irritated AI grew. The ball on the handrail rattled in his hand. When he removed his hand, a shower of sawdust fell on it. AI, feeling a little weak, felt a bit dizzy. But the night was only halfway through, the time when sleep was at its deepest. It was also the perfect time for an assassin to strike. So, he forced himself to stare wide-eyed, scanning the surroundings. His tiger eyes, bloodshot, were like searchlights, capturing even the slightest sign of an assassin. Moo. 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 The thunderous lowing of cattle suddenly echoed across the hidden cloud village. It was as if the entire village had been bombed, with a sound of cattle mooing and exploding everywhere. AI sensed something was amiss and immediately summoned his hidden subordinates. Several ninjas appeared and knelt before AI. Lord Raikage, what are your orders? AI commanded firmly. Pass the word down. Each team will send half of their members to investigate the various Cloud Thunder cattle farms. Meanwhile, the remaining members will step up alert. Yes, everyone responded in unison. Then, half of the men quickly dispersed to various locations. Meanwhile, the lowing of cattle continued, and the village seemed to have returned to the bustle of daytime. Every household turned on their lights and peered out curiously. For a moment, the lights of the hidden cloud village at midnight shone brightly, like countless stars twinkling in the night sky. Ninjas scurried across the sturdy houses, their footsteps treading like rain, creating a constant rattling sound. But the lowing of the cattle didn't diminish. Instead, it became an epidemic, filling even the silent areas with its echoes. Suddenly, A ninja descended before AI, his expression extremely anxious. Lord Raikage, according to reports from all the major Yunlei cattle farms, Yunlei cattle have been stolen. An estimated 70 breeding cattle have been stolen, and over 30 beef cattle. At this, the reporting ninja lowered his head. Neither the guards nor the Anbu have found any cattle thieves. It seems all these cattle were stolen all at once. Upon hearing this, AI's pupils suddenly constricted. Yunlei cattle have been stolen? Each cattle weighs nearly 3,000 pounds, and how could they be stolen? And that's 100. So many large cattle disappeared at once, right under our noses. Has the village's defenses declined to this point? Despite AI's fury, he immediately considered possible methods of cattle theft and inquired quickly. Are there any signs of disturbed soil where the cattle disappeared? To steal so many cattle instantly, right under their noses, would surely be no simple feat. Even a thief skilled in earth escape would have a difficult task. But with proper coordination and advanced earth-style ninjutsu, it might be possible. However, the reporting ninja shook his head. Those present suspected something underground, but found no signs of disturbed soil. What? Not even underground? Could it have gone up into the sky? I wondered, looking up at the sky. But after thinking about it, it seemed a little unlikely. If the cow had gone up into the sky, at least they would have heard it mooing, giving them a chance of finding it. Since the moment the cow disappeared, there had been no mooing from the sky. If they searched the sky now, finding any trace of it would be a miracle. But it wasn't the Hyūga Teru ninja he particularly suspected. So which village's experts had stolen the cow? And why? It was possible that those dwarfs from Hyūga Teru stole the cow to grow taller. Why would someone from another village steal the cow, and how? No matter how much he suspected, he just couldn't figure it out. He had no choice but to gather a group of resourceful individuals to discuss several possibilities. After much discussion, he eliminated the most unlikely possibility. Everyone thought that this might have been done by someone from the village. Originally, everyone was suspicious of each other because of the assassination. After this cattle theft incident, the suspicion within Hyūga Teru became more and more serious. Konoha village. Hyūga Teru was in the house of the Hyūga clan. Hyūga Teru returned to the house early in the morning and stuffed a lot of beef that he had cut in the middle of the night into the refrigerator. The rest was temporarily placed in the kitchen, and he cooked a few pots of ramen. Then he walked towards the room of Uchiha, who was sleeping soundly. But before he got close, he heard a lot of talking, which made him very confused. At first, he thought that Uchiha had hooked up with others while he was out. But when he listened carefully, the voices were a little childish and soft. It didn't seem like a man's voice. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door, and the noise inside suddenly became much quieter. After a while, Uchiha came out. But his expression was extremely tense, probably because he knew that the noise in the room was a little wrong. However, she didn't have time to react, and she screamed, and was pulled into the arms of Hyūga Teru. Miss Xia, what happened? Do you need our help? Suddenly, outside the house, there was a hurried sound of footsteps, and almost immediately, a questioning voice was heard. However, the frightened Hyūga had completely turned into a look of surprise. At Hyūga Teru's hint, she responded calmly. It's nothing, I just saw a cockroach, and I killed it. It turned out to be a cockroach. I thought you were attacked by gangsters. In this case, we will retreat first. Okay, you guys retreat first. After Hyūga responded. The footsteps of the guards outside were also heard in the distance. After that, Hyūga looked at Hyūga Teru with a happy face. Master, you are back? What noodles did you make today? Chapter 53 Hyūga and Hanabi. Hyūga Teru immediately patted Hyūga Natsu's head and said helplessly. Let's forget about the noodles for now. I think you'd better be more cautious from now on, otherwise, if someone pretends to be me, will you just throw yourself into their arms? Hyūga Natsu nodded as if she had done something wrong, but then smiled at him. Then, Master, why don't you give me a secret code, a code that's just for the two of us, so I can easily recognize you in the future? Hyūga Teru thought it was a good idea. He and Hyūga Natsu discussed the code. From now on, whenever asked about each other's strengths, Hyūga Natsu would answer 18, and Hyūga Teru's would answer 92, 52, and 94. Not long after they agreed on the code, a small figure suddenly rushed out, clutching a pillow, and slammed into Hyūga Teru. Bad guy, don't hurt Sister Natsu. But before the child could even get close to Hyūga Teru, His hand pinned his head, and his charge was instantly stopped. Zyosha, where did this baby come from? It's not you, is it? Hinata-shia's temper immediately flared. How can babies come so quickly? Zyosha wants to have a few adorable children like this, but I just don't know when I'll be able to conceive. Hinata-shia touched her belly, then picked up the little girl, who was pacing in place with her eyes closed, and whispered something in her ear. The little girl's pink eyes widened, staring at Hyūga Teru in a daze. Is this a mistake? As if realizing she'd made a mistake, she immediately lowered her head and covered her face with her hands. Her face turned red at a visible speed, like a tomato gradually cooking, and a faint heat rose. Hinata-shia, who knew the little girl well, smiled and fanned her, as if worried she'd faint from the heat. It's okay, Hinata, don't blame yourself. Brother is a good man, he won't blame you. As she fanned, Hinata-shia looked at Hyūga Teru apologetically. She's Mr. Hayashi's daughter, and her sister, Hanabi, is also asleep inside. It's mainly because Mr. Hayashi is responsible for my safety and can't take care of them, and the new nanny doesn't seem to be taking good care of them. So I specifically asked Mr. Hayashi to send them to me. After all, I've been taking care of them before, so I know their habits very well. And I'm bored, so you won't blame me for taking the initiative, will you, Master? Hyūga Teru looked at Hinata, her face flushing. It turned out that the noises were just coming from Hinata Natsu's room. Were they Hinata and Hanabi? That was quite surprising. He noticed the little girl looking at him apologetically through the gap between her tiny hands. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but smile, placing a hand on her head. Hinata, don't worry about doing anything wrong. Come over and play often when you have time. Now, come with your brother to have breakfast, okay? Hinata Natsu smiled, setting Hinata on the ground and preparing to hand her over to Hyūga Teru. But as she was handing her over, the big hand was about to grab the small one. Hinata suddenly fainted with a yelp and was about to fall. Fortunately, Hyūga Teru was quick to catch her. The scene became extremely quiet. Hinata-shia was also shocked by the sudden change for a moment. But then she explained it as if it was nothing unusual. Hinata is a little special. She is a very shy girl. Master, why don't you carry her to the living room and I'll go get her sister? Oh, is that so? Then you go get Hanabi. I should be able to take care of her. Carrying Hinata to the living room was naturally not a difficult task. But what puzzled Hinata was why she fainted instantly just by holding his hand. Shouldn't this reaction be directed at Naruto? Wait. Speaking of which, there are no branch families or main families now. It seems that the situation in the original story where Hinata was bullied and Naruto came to save her would not happen. Oh, but this also doesn't explain why this child fainted immediately after physical contact with him. Could it be that he's gotten even more handsome recently, possessing a charm that even this 3-year-old girl couldn't resist? After all, they'd only just met, and their interactions were brief. He was probably just too handsome, captivating the little girl. He could charm the little Hyūga princess with his looks alone. Who else could possibly be more charming? Hinata's mood brightened at the thought. He carried the cuddly Hinata to the living room. Then he immediately went into the kitchen and started making a few more pots of noodles. Hinata loved ramen, too, so he wouldn't forget. But to prevent the child from chewing the beef, he employed a divine Uchiha-style sword technique, instant slash, to slash the beef into small pieces. Once the noodles were cooked, he carried a clay pot each to the living room. Hinata was busy feeding Hanabi, leaving Hinata alone to taste his ramen first. Seeing the massive clay pot, Hinata, now awake, blinked curiously, a bit puzzled. Brother, what's this? It smells so good. This is the noodles I made. It's your sister, Zyosha's favorite. I wonder if you like it. It's got a lot of Cloud Thunder beef in it. Ramen, Cloud Thunder beef, Hinata muttered absent-mindedly, completely stunned. Seeing Hinata's stillness, Hyūga Teru, though somewhat puzzled, slowly lifted the lid. Perhaps it was because of the high-quality ingredients. The clay pot shone with a faint golden light, and the rising mist was stained with vibrant colors. Wow, such beautiful ramen, and it smells so good too, Hinata exclaimed, her little nose snorting, her eyes fixed on everything in the clay pot. Flanking the tender white noodles were a few crisp, jade-green vegetables. In the center of the curled noodles, a mass of tiny, marbled meat pieces lay. So there really is Cloud Thunder beef. Where did you buy it, Master? But isn't it cut a little too finely? Hinata, who had been watching the clay pot from the side, sighed as Hinata quietly began to eat her noodles. Hyūga Teru shook his head. She's different from you. Children inevitably have trouble chewing beef, so of course I had to chop her portion into finer pieces, but yours is all large chunks, guaranteed to satisfy you. Upon hearing this, Hyūga looked wistfully at her own clay pot. It had been ages since she'd seen such large chunks of Cloud Thunder beef, and she desperately wanted to try some. But Hanabi, on the other hand, needed to be well fed. Hyūga Teru noticed Hyūga's dilemma and immediately moved over to her side. Leave her to me for now. You can go eat your noodles first. It must have been tough these past few days, hasn't it? Hyūga was moved to tears, and secretly kissed him before speaking. Master, you're so kind. Then, I'll be more than welcome. Chapter 54 Continue Uchiha Seinen. Soon, the sound of slurping noodles filled the room. Hyūga was truly the future ramen queen. Even at just 3 years old, she'd already devoured 3 large clay pots of noodles. An Ichiraku bowl could probably hold 3 of those large pots. In other words, she could have finished 9 large bowls of Ichiraku ramen right now. And that was after Hyūga stopped her from eating any more. Even after finishing the 3 clay pots, her belly was only slightly swollen. It seemed her constitution was quite unique, unlike Hyūga, who had a swollen belly after 10 months of pregnancy. It seemed that inactivity had affected her digestion. Hyūga quickly offered to do the dishwashing. So, only Hyūga Teru and the 2 Hyūga sisters were left in the living room. Hyūga Teru was holding Hanabi. Hanabi was barely a year old now, and while she could crawl, she was still a long way from walking. She'd fallen asleep almost immediately in Hyūga Teru's arms after finishing her milk. Concerned that she might be uncomfortable, Hyūga Teru moved her to Hyūga Teru's room. There was a cradle inside, perfect for a peaceful sleep. Hyūga, having finished, emerged. He found Hyūga facing him, her head bowed, her hands clasped together. She looked as if she'd come to see him, but seemed to be struggling with something. Hyūga immediately approached her, patting her head and gently asking, "What's wrong, Hyūga? Is something bothering you?" Hyūga lowered her head even lower, her cheeks rapidly turning pink, and her lips panted, seemingly overwhelmed by the heat. Wainy, If you have something to say, just tell me directly. Don't worry about saying the wrong thing." Confused, Hyūga leaned closer. Hyūga suddenly screamed, fainting from embarrassment. "No way, fainted again? Is my charm really that great?" Hyūga smiled helplessly, quickly catching her to prevent her from falling to the ground. "What's wrong, master?" Did Hyūga faint again? Hyūga Natsu, whose belly had shrunk considerably, had just returned to the living room after washing the dishes. She was somewhat surprised to see Hyūga faint. Hyūga Teru could only force a smile and nod. Yet, does she usually faint that easily? Would that be very inconvenient for her daily life? Hyūga Natsu, also a little confused, took Hyūga from Teru's hands. She wasn't that horrible before. I was worried she might faint from embarrassment, but it never happened. Today really proved my suspicion true. Hyūga Natsu glared at Teru with a stern look. "It's a little unbelievable, but master, you're getting more and more handsome. If I had a brother as handsome as that when I was a kid, I'd probably blush and bewildered when I saw him." He didn't know what was going on, but Hyūga Teru had a vague feeling that perhaps the addition of several new bloodlines had caused a change in her body. A change in appearance was understandable, but Hyūga Natsu's wrath was completely unreasonable. This inexplicably irritated Hyūga Teru, and he pulled her into his arms, one hand restless. "I'm naturally incredibly charming, okay? Didn't you faint a few times before?" Blushing profusely. "It's almost the same as hers, isn't it?" Hyūga blushed at the mere thought of what she was referring to before, her body softening as she spoke softly. "How can they be the same? Master, you'd better not torment Zyosha. You can't do that these days. And we have the child." Hyūga Teru gave her waist a firm squeeze before letting it go. "Am I the kind of person who can't control myself? But you've eaten so much of my flesh, and I'll make it up to you later. Remember that." Hyūga blushed as she gazed at him and nodded. "Zyosha will make it up to you, master, but what are you doing today?" "Helping Zyosha with a child," Hyūga said, rubbing her cheeks as if trying to fade the blush. "It should be good to get some experience taking care of a child beforehand, right?" Hyūga Teru rubbed her face. "Master has things to do today, so I'll definitely accompany you next time. Don't leave now. Master needs to use your identity to do something. Oh, and remember to tell Hyūga not to tell anyone about your meeting with me, or things will get really complicated." Hinata Natsu nodded in agreement. She knew Hinata was supposed to be stationed at the border. Whatever ability he had used to return, it was done secretly, so it was hard to make a public announcement. But Hinata's departure made her uneasy. "Master, is this something difficult? Do you need Zyuksha's help?" Seeing the worry on her face, Hyūga Teru stroked her cheek with a soothing hand. "It's not a big deal. I'm just regularly delivering some Yanai beef to the Fugaku family. After all, it's easier with your identity for now." Hinata Natsu felt relieved. While this matter wasn't a big deal, it was very important to Hinata Teru himself. After all, everything in anime favors Konoha, and the best talents are found there. Honestly, aside from the lightning release armor, the Tensou Jutsu, and the two-tailed beasts, there wasn't much else that interested Hinata Teru in Kumagakure. He'd gone there to deliver something under the guise of Hyūga Natsu, but in reality, he was checking in with the Uchiha clan. Speaking of which, he'd previously checked in for the god-level single Magatama Sharingan, and who knew if he'd ever get a god-level double or triple Magatama. Just these few things alone were enough to convince him to move his check-in location from Kumagakure back to Konoha. And if the Uchiha Mangekyo technique also fell within the check-in area, wouldn't that make it even more advanced? Therefore, a long-term check-in with the Uchiha clan was essential. From that day on, Hinata Teru usually went on assassination missions with Nono in the evenings. During the day, he'd check in with the Uchiha clan in the mornings, and at noon or afternoon, he'd visit the ranches he'd invested heavily in to watch the herders tend their cattle. Of course, he'd occasionally check in with Yukito and check on her recovery. His life was incredibly fulfilling. About a month passed. Most of the sign-in rewards are Uchiha's fire escape, illusion, instant body movement and so on. However, the two key 7-day sign-in achievements upgraded the god-level Sharingan to 3 Magatama. But with only 3 Magatama, the pupil power is comparable to the Samsara Eye. I am afraid that if it is upgraded to the Mangekyo, it will be even stronger than the Samsara Eye. And the other two 7-day sign-in achievements gained the god-level Izanagi and god-level Izanami techniques. The effects are the same as in the original. But compared to the side effect of the original, that one use would result in the loss of an eye. The two techniques possessed by Hinata Teru only consume a little bit of pupil power. Just do a few eye exercises and have a good rest and you can recover. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Princess Konoha. The main gates of Konoha had been teeming with people since morning. Their attire was strikingly similar, though. All wore white robes and possessed pure white eyes. The side of the Hyūga clan, a prominent family in Konoha, waiting so uniformly at the gate filled everyone with emotion. What kind of person could deserve such a lavish welcome? Has Lord Teru not arrived yet? I heard he beat the Raikage to the ground. I wonder what that must have been like. Lord Teru is truly formidable. He captured Troy and the Jinchuriki, Yukito, right after leaving the village, and then left the Raikage bedridden for days. His strength is comparable to the Yondaime, isn't it? Of course. I wonder if everyone has started calling Lord Teru the Blue Flash. As the Hyūga clan members excitedly discussed Hinata Teru, passers-by who stopped to watch were also deeply moved. So it's the rumored Blue Flash that's returning. I heard the Blue Flash's style rivals the Fourth Raikage's. It seems the peace agreement between Kumagakure and the village was also Blue Flash-sama's credit. No wonder so many people came out to greet him. Blue Flash-sama is truly amazing. Who knows, he might become the future 5th Hokage. The villagers also beamed with joy. Those who had been just watching unconsciously joined the waiting crowd. Not long after, a team slowly approached from a short distance outside the village, causing those waiting at the gate to cheer and exclaim. But then, the crowd erupted in a roar of excitement. Isn't this the clan leader? Why is he dressed like this? And young master, why is he dressed like the clan leader? What is he doing? Are the clan leaders planning to welcome Teru-sama in this outfit? Does Teru-sama have such a quirk? The Hyūga clan members exclaimed in surprise. They stared in disbelief at Hisashi and Niji walking among them. Both were dressed in women's clothing. It's hard to recognize them if you weren't familiar with them. Hisashi already had a very handsome face. He looked perfectly at home in a black and white maid outfit. Instead, it accentuated his slender figure, making many women blush. The elegance of his tied-up black bun and the mysterious allure of his black stockings perfectly intertwined, giving him both feminine elegance and charm. He looked more like a noble lady with a child than a wealthy patriarch. However, compared to Hisashi, Niji garnered even more attention. Many women, in particular, gave him affectionate glances. It was as if they wanted to immediately hug Niji and plant strawberries all over him. Niji was actually wearing the same black and white maid outfit as Hisashi. But his hairstyle was a bit more girly, with twin ponytails. With her adorable, pink face and meticulously styled twin ponytails, she looked every bit the princess she is. Oh my god, how can she be so adorable? Has young Niji been wearing the wrong clothes all this time? She's so beautiful. I almost didn't recognize her as young Niji. Even the Fire Nation princesses don't look this beautiful. I really want to hold her in my arms and play with her, but the clan leader will definitely chop us all up. It's such a headache. Soon, men and women alike were staring at Niji. Hinata Hisashi was completely replaced by a supporting role. Niji's adorable, furry-like appearance even made everyone want to pamper him to the skies. Many even began secretly calling Niji the Princess of Konoha. Niji never imagined that his first rise to fame in Konoha would be by dressing as a woman. Zyuji, who is that beautiful sister? How come I have never seen her before? Today, the cute little Hinata in her pink kimono was also completely attracted by Nisi. When Hyūga heard Hinata's question, she didn't know how to answer for a moment. At the same time, she felt a little sad, although she thought it was unnecessary worry. But the stunning looks of Hisashi and Niji in women's clothes still made her feel stressed. Hisashi's appearance was not particularly attractive, but Niji was absolutely stunning at a young age. Even she couldn't help but think that when she was a child, she might not be half as cute as Nisi. And before, she always thought Hinata and Hanabi were so cute. Now that she saw Nisi, she knew what it meant that there are always people better than you. Although a little embarrassed, Hyūga still answered patiently. Hinata, that's actually young Master Niji, huh? Hinata froze in shock, staring at Niji, surrounded by the crowd, in disbelief. Niji, is he actually a girl? Hinata suddenly felt confused as to why Hinata would ask such a question. She had no choice but to explain again. He's not the older sister, he's actually the older brother, but he's even prettier than Hinata, so why isn't he the older sister? Hinata's eyes were filled with envy, still stubbornly believing Niji was a girl. This left Hinata feeling both amused and embarrassed. Hinata, Niji really isn't the older sister, he's just wearing girls' clothes. Even so, Hinata felt a strange sense of worry welling up inside her. Even a little girl couldn't resist Niji's charm. Could their somewhat unconventional master also fall for her? Hinata pondered for a moment, gazing out the gate. Seeing a familiar, dusty figure, she immediately tugged at Hinata's sleeve. Zyuji, Brother Teru is almost here, shall we go and greet him? Well, let's go quickly. Hinata didn't think any more. Holding Hinata's hand, they walked towards the gate. At this time, the gate became even more crowded. Although the cheers were loud, most people's eyes were still on Niji and Hisashi. It was as if the protagonist today was not Hyūga Teru, but the two of them. This made Niji, who was already very shy and embarrassed, hold Hisashi's stockings even tighter. Father, why do we have to do this? This is so weird. Noticing the bitter and pleading look from Nisi, Hisashi's face, which remained calm despite the collapse of the mountain, showed a hint of apology. He couldn't help but stroke Nisi's head. Niji, I've been responsible for you, but this is also a great opportunity. I've always felt that your brother Wei is incredibly powerful, and now that he's returned safely, it's been proven true. Dressing up as a woman isn't shameful, but not having the courage to do so is shameful. Actually, letting you dress up as a woman isn't just to welcome him back, it's also to show him my determination. Showing my determination, Niji's mind was filled with doubts. But after enduring the strange looks from everyone for so long, he gradually got used to it. Chapter 56 Kakoshi's Spring? Hyūga Teru and his companions, who were hurrying along, happened to see the group blocking the entrance. The Hyūga group practically filled the entrance, drawing the gazes of their companions to Hyūga Teru, many of them envious. Meanwhile, Kakashi, who had been chatting happily with Hyūga Teru at the border, approached him and pointed at the entrance. Teru, do you know all those people? Hyūga Teru shook his head. Although most of them are from my clan, I don't know them all. I've only met most of them once, and there are only a few I'm more familiar with. Kakashi understood a little and pointed at the beautiful woman in the middle. What about those two? They look eagerly awaiting you. Are they close to you? Hyūga Teru looked in Kakashi's direction. In fact, he had glanced at them several times. After all, they were the center of attention. Even from a distance, both of them were strikingly beautiful. Especially the pairing of the older and the younger, who looked like mother and daughter, added a touch of a hazy, forbidden charm, inviting the imagination. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't recall who they were. He'd thought about Rinnegan Natsu. But his maid was more of the cute type, and couldn't even fake such mature charm. And that little girl, although she was incredibly cute, if not Hinata, he couldn't imagine who else it could be. But Kakashi, that old jerk, kept asking him questions. Something seemed off, didn't it? Hyūga Teru stared directly at Kakashi, as if trying to penetrate his devil mask. Those two don't seem to be among the people I know, but Kakashi, your behavior is a bit unusual. Could it be that the story of Ninja Urban gave you some ideas? One day, Kakashi was poring over Jiraiya's work. Hyūga Teru passed by. He immediately and boldly befriended Kakashi and asked to borrow a copy of Jiraiya's work. Kakashi was embarrassed, but to keep Hyūga Teru quiet, he had no choice but to give it to him. And then, just when Kakashi thought he had met a kindred spirit, I wanted to ask Hyūga Teru what he thought of the book and discuss the exciting plot. However, Hyūga Teru shook his head expressionlessly, saying that the content was too boring and not exciting enough. Kakashi regarded Jiraiya's works as almost holy books, classic works that made him enter the field. How could he bear such slander? After a strong argument, Hyūga Teru slowly revealed part of the plot of Ninja Urban, which directly made Kakashi rebel. The talk about the landlady and the teacher kept Kakashi awake at night. Unfortunately, no matter how much he asked, he couldn't borrow any works from Hyūga Teru, which really frustrates him. However, because of this, he often wants to chat with Hyūga Teru and get some stories out of him. However, the exciting content Hyūga Teru talks about always has something to do with mature women. Naturally, he always dreams about them. When he saw the mother and daughter at the door today, the DNA reacted instantly, and Hyūga Teru, who had grown to understand him well, immediately noticed something fishy. It was so embarrassing, he almost wanted to dig his feet into a crack in the ground and crawl inside. Kakashi, face flushed and sweating, shook his head and denied it. No. I'm just curious. After all, those stories you tell are all about the same genre. I have a feeling, you're using people around you as your subjects. Hyūga Teru immediately glanced at him. His gaze tinged with sarcasm and yet also with understanding. We're all friends, there's no need to be so formal. Besides, you were willing to share your resources with me from the beginning. How could I refuse help with something so crucial that could determine your life's happiness? It looks like they don't have any men around them. They might be widows or orphans. I don't have much of an impression, but asking for their general information shouldn't be a problem. Kakashi's mask and long hair obscured his face, making his expression unclear. But it seemed that because Hyūga Teru had used it, they both happened to hear the voice. He relaxed a little, and nodded slightly. Okay. Hyūga Teru then quickened his pace, and the entire group soon arrived at the front gate of Konoha. But when he saw the mother and daughter at the gate clearly, Hyūga Teru was completely shocked. What the hell? Why were Hizushi and Niji suddenly so brave? He had thought they were a widowed mother and daughter. He had also thought Kakashi had finally come to his senses and could shed his bachelor status. But what he was attracted to were two men dressed in women's clothing. Ahem. Teru, are you familiar with them? Why do you look so different? The entire group slowed down a bit, and Kakashi approached Hyūga Teru and whispered softly. Hyūga Teru was embarrassed. He didn't know if he would answer no, and it wasn't the same if he didn't answer. But it seemed like Kakashi had to be heartbroken before he even fell in love. After a moment's pause, he could only answer helplessly. Well, Kakashi, I do know them, but honestly, don't be sad. There are so many good women out there, don't just get yourself killed by a tree. Kakashi wondered, confused. I've been alone for so many years, I'm pretty much used to it. If you have any questions, just ask. Does she already have a husband or something? It's not as simple as just having a husband. Hyūga Teru didn't know what to say. He felt incredibly sad for Kakashi. But then, the crowd at the entrance suddenly became unbearable, the flow of people bursting out like a flood. Hizushi and Niji, at the front, were almost drowned in the next second. However, Kakashi, who was standing next to Hyūga Teru, suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, something even Hyūga Teru was stunned by. Kakashi appeared behind Hisashi and Neji, and before they could react, he embraced them one by one. At that moment, Kakashi's cheeks flushed slightly. Suddenly, he remembered the hero-saving beauty scenes often seen in Jiraiya's novels, and his gaze towards Hisashi became even more affectionate. "Madam, are you alright? A beautiful woman like you, if she gets hurt, it would be heartbreaking." Hisashi was shocked, and looked at Kakashi with a chill on his face. "Kakashi, Jonin, I'm Hisashi Hinata. We're already on the ground, why aren't you letting go, huh?" Kakashi was stunned. The beautiful woman he just saved? Why was it Hisashi Hinata? What had happened to this world? Can people still trust each other? Oh my god. He just said such shameful things to Hisashi Hinata. Thinking about it, he almost wanted to die. The more Kakashi thought about it, the more he felt depressed. Plop, he fell to the ground like a salted fish. He grabbed the mask with both hands and pulled it up hard, as if to cover his entire head. Chapter 57 Youth and Freedom. "Master, you're so kind. If it weren't for you, Natsu would have been hit." Hinata huddled in Hyūga Teru's arms, overflowing with gratitude and joy. But in his other embrace, tiny Hinata's lips moved softly. Brother, thank you." Hinata's face flushed bright red, like a ripe apple, making one want to take a bite. Hyūga Teru smiled, gazing at the two of them. "You're both so kind. You're all people I care deeply about. How could I bear to see you get hurt?" Hinata nodded happily, gently resting her head on Hyūga Teru's. Hinata's cheeks were already flushed to the extreme, her eyes rimmed. Familiar with Hinata's peculiar constitution, Hyūga Teru tilted his shoulders slightly, balancing her head securely on it. Although both shoulders were crowded, there was an indescribable sense of fullness. "Master, why did that Jounin Kakashi over there suddenly faint?" Hinata glanced in Hisashi's direction and immediately spotted Kakashi lying on the ground. At this moment, Kakashi was desperately pulling his mask up to his head, twisting on the ground like a snake, his feet digging a large hole in the ground. The people around were horrified. Kakashi, Jonin, is he hysterical? Quick, hurry to the hospital. We can't let Kakashi, Jonin, continue like this, he'll suffocate." Why is he suddenly hysterical? Could it be that he's been wearing the mask for too long? Everyone's eyes focused on Kakashi's mask. At this moment, Kakashi also noticed the gazes around him and immediately realized that he seemed to have died a second time. He was almost in tears, but the mask was his last line of defense and he must not let it be pulled off again. Seeing the crowd rushing over, Kakashi immediately sat up and held out his hands to stop them. "Stop. I said stop, I'm fine." However, the people around him were confused. "It's over so quickly? Isn't it too soon?" "Yeah, you looked a little off just now. I have a feeling there's something wrong with that mask, Kakashi. We can't be without you on this journey of youth. I heard you've developed hysteria from wearing that mask for so long. I'll help you take it off." Just as the crowd was hesitantly preparing to leave, a tall, sturdy figure, teeth gleaming brightest in the sun, appeared passionately. No, guy." Knowing Guy's straightforward nature, and convinced that once he'd made up his mind, it was difficult to explain things clearly, Kakashi immediately scrambled towards the woods. "Oh. Kakashi, passionate youth won't allow escape. Not even the jungle can stop me. I'm coming in, Kakashi, no." Kakashi's shrill cry echoed throughout the woods. Seeing Kakashi's spirited presence, the others dispersed. After all, with a warm-hearted friend like Guy around, he probably wouldn't agree to anything until it was completely resolved. "There's so much noise in the woods, are they fighting?" Hinata looked up at Hyūga Teru with some suspicion. Hyūga Teru was a little confused, so he nodded in agreement. That should be the case. They do this often. They're relatively freer in the woods. As the two chatted, the tribesmen gathered around. Especially Hisashi and Neji. After seeing that Kakashi was fine, they immediately squeezed into the crowd. Seeing Hisashi and Neji again, they were both dressed as women. Hyūga Teru felt something was wrong. But the look of these two people was really impressive. It made Hyūga Teru, an experienced driver, feel a little overwhelmed. He didn't dare to look at their legs. He thought only Neji looked stunning in women's clothing, but he didn't expect Hisashi to have this talent. Things in the world are really unpredictable. But what he didn't expect was that Hisashi actually wanted to invite him to be his guest. This made Hinata who already had a strong sense of crisis, start to get anxious. Master, we've got a lot of things ready at home. Would you like to go to the clan leader's house later? What difference does it make if I go earlier or later? Hyūga Teru was puzzled by such a flawed explanation from Natsu, who had been with him from morning till night. She lowered her eyelashes slightly, as if realizing she'd done something out of line. It's just that I haven't seen you in ages, Master, and I don't want to be apart from you, of course. She wouldn't say it directly. She was worried Hyūga Teru would be seduced away by a man. Being seduced by a woman wasn't a big deal. But being seduced by a man, she found it hard to imagine. She was also deeply worried that Hyūga Teru would become abnormal. So she lied to prevent this. However, before Hyūga Teru could reply, Hisashi spoke warmly. It doesn't really matter. Come along, Natsu and Hyūga. Just have a simple meal and chat. Hyūga Teru immediately looked at Natsu but didn't answer. This instantly flattered her, as the final decision rested with her. A feeling of care, unprecedented, washed over her. Of course, she also felt a surge of remorse. After all, she had been so confused earlier, suspecting that Hyūga Teru would be attracted to Niji and Hisashi in their women's clothing. She immediately gave Hyūga Teru a trusting look. Master, you make the decision. Wherever you go, Natsu will go, then let's go together. Cooking is a hassle, and eating at Hisashi's house saves us the trouble. With the decision made, everyone was happy. Hyūga Teru happily led Natsu and Hyūga to Hisashi's house for dinner. Meanwhile, on the rooftop of the tallest building in the Uchiha clan territory, Uchiha Fugaku and Uchiha Itachi stood side by side. Both of them fixed their gazes on the gate. After confirming that the person surrounded was Hyūga Teru, Fugaku placed a hand on Itachi's shoulder. Remember to visit your Uncle Teru in a few days and learn from him thoroughly on all aspects of knowledge. After all, he's the man who defeated the Fourth Raikage. I'm afraid it's hard to predict who will win against your Uncle Teru either. You have much to learn. Itachi paused for a moment, then nodded. I understand, Father. But I'm a little confused. Why do you treat Uncle Teru so differently than others? Aside from your own clan, I don't think I've ever seen you so warm to anyone else. Fugaku was briefly surprised by Itachi's question, then regained his composure, folding his arms and staring off into the distance. We Uchiha aren't a solitary clan. We always make friends with outsiders. Besides, the Hyūga clan is a large one, and your Uncle Teru is truly extraordinary. Of course, we can't treat him like an ordinary person. In short, you must show him the utmost respect from now on, and always remember what I say. Though still puzzled, Itachi nodded in agreement. Fugaku then gazed towards Hyūga Teru, though remaining silent. But his face was no longer as cold and rigid as before. It seemed to have a layer of warmth. And there was a bright light in his eyes. Chapter 58, The Sword of Love. Hisashi, who was being overly attentive, did have an agenda. He openly dressed as a woman, and so on. It turned out he wanted Niji to study with him. But that wasn't hard to imagine. The Hyūga clan was a powerful clan, after all. They placed special emphasis on early education. Commoners might only master the three-body technique upon graduation, but those of the Hyūga clan, at least, had mastered the 8 trigrams 32 palms. Considering Niji's future, it was understandable that he would entrust him to someone capable of defeating the Raikage. Honestly, Niji didn't need much instruction from him. Hisashi was overthinking it. His Rinnegan wasn't something he could learn. But since everyone in Konoha knew about her cross-dressing, it was hard to refuse. So, in addition to Hyūga's regular studies with him, Niji also began studying with him. The first day went much more smoothly than Hyūga Teru had anticipated. After all, he was a Jonin himself, so guiding Niji was easy. Niji was incredibly talented, and he didn't need much instruction from him. A little guidance would get him the hang of it, and the rest would come with practice. The first day of learning was a pleasant one. Niji returned home delighted. But after hearing what he had to say, Hisashi didn't seem pleased. You said, your brother Teru learned it in a snap. Hyūga, on the other hand, didn't know much and needed to be taught for a long time. Niji was a little confused as to why his father seemed unhappy. But he didn't dare hide it. Yes, Uncle Teru taught me exactly what I'll be learning later, and he thinks I'll have no problem practicing. However, Hisashi's expression grew more serious. Of course you'll have no problem practicing. After all, you've always been very fast at learning moves. But if you continue at your normal pace, I don't think you'll achieve much. Anyway, When you go tomorrow, dress nicely. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and I'll make sure Brother Teru teaches you carefully." Neji was stunned for a moment, then realized he was going to dress like a woman, and his face turned completely sour. "Why, father? I have to dress nicely and go out. I have to wonder how many people will see me." Hisashi's face turned stern. "Being watched isn't a big deal. Learning your brother Teru's powerful moves is the real deal." Powerful moves? Neji was even more confused. "Father is Teru's brother, wouldn't he teach me everything he knows?" Hisashi nodded. "Based on the current situation, maybe, but it's hard to say. But to be on the safe side, you'd better dress nicely to increase your chances of being taught everything." Niji's expression turned even more bitter, and he even gave him a pleading look. "Father, is this really necessary? Can I develop powerful moves on my own?" Hisashi nodded. "It's not that I don't believe in you, but most talented people build their achievements on the foundations of their predecessors. I simply think that if you learn the moves your brother Teru developed, you'll at least be able to defeat the Raikage in the future. It's not impossible to surpass your brother Teru later. For your future, it's okay to endure a little injustice for now. If you find it really embarrassing, then I'll stay with you until you learn powerful moves." Neji didn't fully understand Hisashi's words. But to convince him to make up his mind, Hisashi was even willing to dress up as a woman. He was immediately moved, his mind agape. "Father, it's enough for me to dress up nicely on my own. It's just a dress, nothing special." Hisashi was incredibly pleased, yet still insisted. "Father always keeps his word. From now on, I'll wear the attire befitting a clan leader when I'm out, and women's attire at home. I said I'll be with you, and I will." "Yes," Neji said, looking at Hisashi earnestly. The next morning, Itachi arrived incredibly early, interrupting Hyūga Teru's morning practice, which annoyed him greatly. However, he didn't show it. Instead, he asked Itachi to stop practicing his shuriken and toss him a book. This was Kakashi's last hurrah, after he died twice, and he'd come to him in the middle of the night, urging him to write it. While his writing might not be perfect, Hyūga Teru, with his many combat experiences, had written it with remarkable detail. With a combined input of multiple shadow clones, not only was it written incredibly quickly, but the content might even be more gripping than the original. I gave Itachi a copy when I saw him. Not because I wanted him to write a review or anything like that, but because I thought Itachi was incredibly studious. Besides missing his brother, his mind seemed to tower over the entire ninja world, constantly pondering how to achieve peace. In short, he was just too out of touch. Hyūga Teru thought, with absolutely no ill will. He deserved the fleeting, yet tangible, pleasures of a normal man. "Uncle Teru, can this book really make me stronger?" I feel. Seeing Itachi blush after just a few moments, looking a bit overwhelmed, Hyūga Teru suppressed a smile and diligently cut vegetables. "Of course, you've probably learned swordsmanship too, right? Let's see how good my swordsmanship is." As he spoke, Hyūga took a clean Cloud Thunder bullwhip and placed it on the cutting board. As he held the long, narrow kitchen knife, chakra suddenly concentrated at several acupuncture points on his hand. Suddenly, blue lightning crackled, arcs of electricity instantly enveloping the entire kitchen knife. God-level supersonic thunder blade, buzz. The arcs of electricity suddenly flowed in a rhythmic pattern, stirring the air with a constant hum, as if a thin membrane vibrating at an extremely high frequency surrounded the blade. Clang! In a flash of lightning, a streak of blue light flashed by. The bullwhip was not only sliced into roughly 5 mm thin slices, but also wafted a faint, roasted aroma. Wow, so fast, it seemed like over 100 cuts in the blink of an eye. Itachi's tongue numbed with astonishment, and he felt increasingly inscrutable about Hyūga Teru. However, Hyūga Teru randomly selected a few slices of bullwhip meat and thrust them into Itachi's hands. "Try it." That slash was more than just evenly sliced and chopped, with a surprising number of strikes. Although Itachi was somewhat reluctant to eat raw bullwhip, he was extremely curious about what Hyūga Teru was saying. Fighting back the discomfort, he stuffed slice after slice into his mouth. Itachi's expression became more and more exciting each time, and his eyes began to shine by the end of the meal. "It's already medium rare so quickly, and it's so even. This is incredible, right? Medium rare is the dumbness of beef, and even bullwhip is no exception." Seeing Itachi's surprise, Hyūga Teru began to speak in a profound way. "Actually, it's neither difficult nor easy. But the difference between me and ordinary sword wielders is that I use a compassionate sword. Compassionate sword, Itachi muttered suspiciously, and then asked curiously, is there also a compassionless sword? Is there a big difference between these two swords? Hyūga Teru nodded. Of course, the difference is huge. It's almost as big as the difference between a samurai with conviction and a samurai without conviction. Chapter 59. When Itachi picked up the family honor, Itachi gradually became thoughtful. I've heard my father say that a samurai's fate is similar to the morale of a warrior on the battlefield. If morale weakens, the warrior's strength will be relatively weakened. Is that what you mean? Hyūga Teru nodded. Yes, but the kind of faith a samurai possesses is something we ordinary people can't learn. We don't have the environment or the conditions, and it's too strange for a ninja. However, in battle, maintaining an unwavering faith can ensure maximum combat effectiveness. So, we ninjas must also have a fighting faith, but I've searched for many faiths, and the elegant and ordinary ones haven't worked well. The vulgar ones, on the other hand, are very effective. While they may not be suitable for everyone, they are definitely suitable for most. If you want to become stronger, you must establish good faith for yourself. Think about why you're working hard, and what you're fighting for. Itachi gradually understood a lot, but when he looked at the book in his hand, he felt something was a little strange. Uncle Wei, do I really have to read this book to find faith? This book should be 18 plus, right? My father doesn't usually let me read these kinds of things. While his actions were a bit wicked, Itachi couldn't be fooled by common sense. He might have already started thinking about how to achieve world peace. Since he'd opened his Sharingan, it meant Obito had set his sights on him. Even without Shisu's brainwashing, Obito would have done it. So, to quickly correct his behavior, he had to give him some drastic measures. Itachi was already very talented. After all, he'd worked so hard, so what was wrong with enjoying himself? He was many times better than the average Uchiha ninja, right? Besides, Hyūga Wei felt that Itachi wouldn't be completely captivated. He might be addicted for a while at first, but then he'd get used to it and gradually settle into the routine. In fact, Hyūga Wei was quite happy for Itachi to change. Even becoming like him would be great. After all, at least he'd have given the Uchiha clan more branches. It's also a contribution to the family. Your father didn't let you watch because he couldn't grasp it. Your Uncle Wei is experienced and can let you watch it all without any harm to your body. If you feel any discomfort later, remember to use this technique to relieve the pressure on the affected area, Hyūga Teru said, and began to teach the technique he had once mastered to the highest level. Unsure of what Itachi was thinking, he copied it with his Sharingan. Is it that simple? Watching the repetitive, almost monotonous movements, Itachi was deeply puzzled. He felt that such a technique seemed strange and useless. However, Hyūga Teru said seriously, the strongest swordsmanship is merely a transformation of ordinary slashes. It's the monotonous movements that make it so extraordinary. It's said that those who master this technique to perfection can achieve the state of one-step soul penetration. I wonder if you have such talent. Although he had no idea, the concept of one-step soul penetration sounded impressive. Itachi soon stopped looking down on this technique and even practiced it while walking, reading a book. Hyūga Teru was a little bewildered. This kid seemed a little too honest, almost embarrassing him. But there was so much breakfast to prepare, he couldn't focus on it right now. Hyūga came over every morning for breakfast. Even though Itachi had already eaten, he still had to give her a taste. And Neji, who was training with him, might be here soon. In short, he was very busy. Itachi, accustomed to training in the courtyard, was now blushing as he read, his body aflame. But he gritted his teeth and persevered, staring intently at the book, savoring the deeper meanings that might be conveyed between the lines. No wonder they say even father can't grasp this book. It's truly amazing. But I can't keep going like this. If Uncle Teru sees it, he'll laugh at me. At that moment, Itachi picked up the family honor he had never cared about. He felt incredibly embarrassed in his current state. He couldn't let Hyūga Teru see him. Going home directly was out of the question. He had to hide somewhere. Glancing anxiously around, Itachi's gaze settled on the lush trees in the courtyard. He climbed the tree with an odd yet agile gait, quickly concealing himself. It was unknown how much time had passed. A delightfully adorable girl, wearing white stockings and displaying an innocent air, walked into the courtyard. Under Hyūga Teru's tutelage, she began learning the gentle fist. However, the girl wasn't Hinata, but Neji. Neji had come dressed as a woman again today. This puzzled Hyūga Teru, but he vaguely suspected Hisashi's involvement. Seeing that he had agreed to teach Niji earlier, could he have assumed it was all thanks to the woman's attire? The more Hyūga Teru thought about it, the more he felt she had misunderstood something. He felt he had to explain it to him later. But considering Niji's sacrifice, he felt he owed him at least a little, or it would be embarrassing. So, he created a shadow clone to teach Niji the gentle fist. It was strange not to see Itachi in the courtyard when he first arrived. He'd wanted to introduce Niji to him, but he'd suddenly vanished? Could it be that he was so engrossed in his reading that he was afraid of embarrassing himself that he hid himself? Thinking of this, Hyūga Teru stopped wondering where Itachi had gone. He began to teach Niji carefully. Compared to the day before when he just watched and taught, today he was teaching very seriously and responsibly, even occasionally teaching him step by step. This made Nishi's dazed face reveal an expression of flattery. Puff puff puff. Suddenly a strange sound was heard among the trees. It interrupted the good teaching atmosphere between Hyūga Teru and Niji. Brother Teru. Is there anyone over there? That sound of leaves shaking, isn't it? Nishi looked up at Hyūga Teru innocently. This made Hyūga Teru a little embarrassed. He suspected that the person in the tree might be Itachi. He didn't know what state Itachi was in now. But it was probably not normal. Because the sound of the leaves just now was obviously caused by something with an impact force hitting the leaves. It was not the normal sound of clothes being blown by people walking in the trees. Ahem, actually he's the child of my brother's friend, and he just happened to come over to learn knowledge from me. It's just that it's color up in the tree, so he stayed up in the tree, Hyūga Teru said, staring at the tree, then at Nishi, his expression becoming even weirder. It feels like things may not be that simple. He even had a bold guess in his mind. I just wonder what Itachi would think when he knew that Nishi was a boy? Hyūga Teru was a little hesitant about whether to tell Itachi that Nishi was a boy. But some things, aren't they a little too early for him? Just in case. Hyūga Teru still waved to Nishi, motioning him to come closer. Ahem, Nishi, when you come here wearing this outfit in the future, your voice should be softer, like Hyūga, okay? Chapter 60 Cold Weasel. Hyūga Teru was actually quite embarrassed. But after all, Itachi was Fugaku's son. The two families had such a close relationship, so he couldn't let Itachi have a psychological trauma, could he? This wasn't the first time Niji had dressed as a woman, and he looked quite adept. He was becoming more and more graceful, and he probably wasn't just being perfunctory about it. Compared to leaving a psychological trauma on Itachi, Niji's voice and expression wouldn't have much of an impact. However, what Hyūga Teru didn't expect was that Niji didn't hesitate at all. Instead, he immediately said softly, Brother Teru, is this okay? Can you be softer? Hyūga Teru was startled. His eyes almost popped out of his head. This sweet, saccharine voice was arguably the most beautiful little girl's voice he had ever heard, even more beautiful than Hyūga's. But, should he resist a little? Or, at least practice a little? How could this voice suddenly sound more girlish than a girl's? Embarrassed, Hyūga Teru scratched his head and cleared his throat. I think it's fine. You can keep it like this for now. Come to think of it. How about changing your name in the future? How about calling her Rinnegan? With the idea of keeping it a secret for a while, he kept it a secret for a while. Hyūga Teru's requests gradually became bolder. However, what he didn't expect was that Nishi was just stunned for a moment, then nodded with a sweet smile. Okay, Brother Teru, then I'll call you Rinnegan from now on. Hyūga Teru held his forehead, almost suffocating. How come you are so obedient, kid? At least resist a little, and I won't force you. In the end, you just accepted it completely. Are you still a real Hyūga man? But at least it is beneficial to the current situation. Hyūga Teru didn't say anything more, and smiled appropriately to show his superficial support. I don't know what happened to Nishi. It seemed that he was greatly encouraged. Not only did he practice harder and more seriously, but he also made rapid progress, and his little face was full of joy. It all made Hyūga wonder, had he awakened some special talent? Alright, go in and rest for a while, have a bowl of ramen, and replenish your energy. Hyūga patted Niji's shoulder with a shy look, motioning him to come inside. Niji was very well behaved, immediately and happily running into the house, his steps even a little girl's nimble. His mouth twitched for a moment, and then Hyūga's eyes fell on the tree where Itachi might be hiding. At this time, Itachi seemed to have no more scruples and jumped down from the tree. But his calves were weak, and he stumbled before he could stand. He was sweating profusely, as if he had just been pulled out of the water. Are you so tired? It seems that this is not something you can handle at such a young age. Give me back the book, otherwise it will affect your health and it will be bad, although the world of Naruto cannot be judged by common sense. Kakashi became a chunin at the age of 6 and began the battle between ninjas. But even if physical development is early, 10 isn't the right time to recklessly squander. Itachi looks too frail right now. If he does it a few more times, he'll probably be ruined. While I need to change his mindset immediately, that doesn't mean I need to ruin him. But how many times has he come? Itachi took a few breaths and shook his head. Uncle Wei. I think it should be okay. I'm very calm now, and I feel like the contents of this book no longer have much of an impact on me, but I'm still not sure how to find the faith you mentioned. Hinata Wei's face turned strange. How could this guy be so serious? It was as if these adult books had no effect on him at all. Or had his sage time given him strength? Of course, finding faith isn't that easy. But you should be getting started. With perseverance and repeated reflection, you should be able to find the secret. Just remember not to spend too long and too much time poring over this book. About once every 3 days is enough. Itachi's seriousness made Hinata Wei feel that his efforts might not be enough. However, setting such a rule should help him to exercise some restraint. Once every 3 days, Itachi wiped the sweat from his forehead and nodded seriously. I understand. I'll keep your words in mind. Well, let's go get some ramen now. It'll be just the right amount of ramen to replenish your body. The reason Yunai beef is so expensive isn't just because it builds muscle, it's also incredibly nourishing. Hyūga Teru worried someone might notice something was up if Itachi didn't take some back with him. But Itachi looked hesitant, as if he wasn't willing to do so. Uncle Teru, I'd better practice some shuriken. I had breakfast long ago. Hyūga Teru was surprised. You looked like you'd exhausted a lot just now, so you can't eat anything. Well, it's a good opportunity to replenish your body. Otherwise, you'll get sick. You should eat something, right? Itachi hesitated for a moment, but his calves were still a little weak, which made him vaguely worried. He gave up. Okay, Uncle Teru, I won't hold back then. Hyūga Teru put his arm around Itachi's shoulders with relief. Of course you're welcome. Your father and I have such a good relationship, there's no need to be polite. Just eat as much as you can. After Itachi entered the house, the shadow clone dissipated. Then Hyūga Teru immediately brought Itachi noodles with bullwhip. It was a little strange. Itachi didn't even look at Nisi with a cold attitude. He buried his head in eating noodles, as if he wanted to completely ignore Nisi. Although Itachi would find out that Nisi was a man one day after interacting with Nisi, such a stiff situation was not good either. Especially since Nisi was very curious about Itachi. Brother Teru, is this the child of the friend you just mentioned? Seeing Nisi bring it up, Hyūga Teru was no longer silent. Yes, he is from the Uchiha family. His name is Uchiha Itachi. He is 10 years old this year, already a real ninja, and graduated from the ninja school 3 years ago. Nisi's bright white pupils dilated a lot. If he became a Jonin at 7, wouldn't it mean he graduated just a few years after starting school? Is Itachi really that amazing? Niji's sweet, innocent voice caused Itachi to noticeably slow down his eating. As if sensing the discomfort of silence, Itachi swallowed his noodles before speaking. Actually, he's not that amazing. I heard there are some who graduate shortly after starting school. 7 is pretty late. With that, Itachi immersed himself in his noodles again, seemingly unwilling to engage in further conversation with Niji. In fact, judging by Itachi's upbringing, even if he disliked Niji, he wouldn't be so cold. So, was his suspicion true? Could Itachi have happened to see Niji while he was in that tree, and had some thoughts come to him? Hyūga Teru was stunned. He had never imagined that a single outfit, a single book, could have such a unique and surprising connection between two men who had no connection in the original novel. Chapter 61 Angry Shisu. Ning, these are freshly picked oranges this morning, so sweet. Hurry up and try some Ning. These are blueberries from the mountains, sour and sweet, so delicious. Hurry up and try some Ning. These are freshly baked buns, grab a few to fill your stomach on the way. That's enough. Thank you, Uncle and Auntie. This is more than enough, there won't be room for any more. As soon as he entered the market, a group of uncles and aunties, their eyes shining, doted on Niji, selecting the best items from various stalls and giving them to him without asking for money. Niji was flattered and secretly admired his father's cleverness. He also felt that being a girl was really convenient. Almost everyone would smile at him as soon as he put on girls' clothes. Speaking of which, it wasn't just Brother Wei who was becoming more and more attentive and teaching him. Itachi, who had been indifferent and aloof to him a few days ago, gradually warmed up to him. He often asked for advice on shuriken techniques, and he always taught him patiently, occasionally even giving him hands-on instruction. Although he still looked a little indifferent, it was obvious that he didn't hate him. It was just that going out had become much more troublesome. The enthusiastic uncles and aunts on the road often surrounded him. A journey that usually took only 5 minutes to walk now took 15 minutes. It was 3 times slower than usual. He was also helpless. He also wanted to fly over the rooftops like before and quickly reach where he wanted to go. But now he often wore skirts, and it was not so good to jump, and his father always taught him to be as reserved as possible. So he could only be patient and walk to Hyūga Teru's residence. As soon as he entered the house and came to the courtyard, he could immediately see Itachi shooting shuriken very seriously. He was very envious of the amazing shuriken shooting skills. But it was extremely difficult to learn. He couldn't master it after studying for many days. Noticing Nishi's arrival, Itachi immediately put away his shuriken and waved to Nishi. "Ning, come here. Let's continue yesterday's shuriken training." "Okay, Itachi-ni, I'll be right there." Niji immediately put his things down and ran to the target. However, to his surprise, Itachi suddenly grabbed his hands from behind. "I still couldn't learn it the other day. I thought about it when I got back. If the shuriken's chakra flow is fine, then it's probably a matter of power. I'll show you how to use power now. You should learn and remember my power. When you practice on your own, try to get a feel for it." "Okay." Niji blushed slightly and let Itachi do it. Shurikens were quickly launched one after another. No matter how many times he had seen it, it still amazed Niji. The shuriken were clearly deflected, but they turned on their own and flew to the bullseye. "Ning, are you feeling it?" Hearing Itachi's question, Niji came back to his senses and felt a little embarrassed. "Itachi-ni, your shuriken jutsu is amazing. I just didn't react." "It's okay, let's do it again." "Thank you, Itachi-ni." Niji smiled delightedly. In the past, he would never have been so embarrassed to admit he didn't feel anything. Now, wearing girls' clothes, he could say whatever he wanted. Sometimes, he even felt that wearing girls' clothes gave him more freedom than wearing boys' clothes. Watching Niji being patiently taught by Itachi, Rinnegan was speechless. He remembered that in the original story, Itachi's response to teaching Sasuke was always "next time." Niji, on his part, not only did he teach step by step, but he was also incredibly patient. While it's true that no one could refuse the pleading of a twin-tailed, white-haired Lolita, Rinnegan knew that Niji was a boy after all. He wondered if Itachi would suddenly burst into excitement and open his 3 Magatama if he knew the truth. But regardless of Niji's original maleness, why was Itachi so kind to Niji? Could it be that because of a strange experience, he suddenly realized that sisters were much cuter than brothers? Rinnegan was lost in thought. Suddenly, a young figure appeared on the rooftop. The man had short, curly hair, and wore a thick Konoha Anbu uniform and an animal mask. His crimson eyes were striking. "Sir, you've come uninvited. Are you looking for someone?" Hyūga Teru leaped onto the rooftop and asked. Though surprised by Hyūga Teru's swift approach, the Anbu ninja quickly replied in a deep voice, "Indeed, I'm looking for someone." "Really? Then you're looking for Itachi." Hyūga Teru suppressed his curiosity, immediately thinking that this Uchiha was looking for another Uchiha. With such an incident, how could Itachi not have noticed? His gaze also shifted to the Anbu ninja. "Let's talk outside, Shisu." "It's not convenient here." This was Shisu? Hyūga Teru looked at the curly-haired young man beside him in surprise. He hadn't expected Shisu to come. Was he here specifically to brainwash Itachi? But to his surprise, Shisu's gaze remained fixed on him. "Are you Hyūga Teru, the one who often teaches Itachi?" "I guess so. You've been looking at me. Do you have something against me? Did you come to see me specifically?" The undisguised rage in Shisu's eyes left Hyūga Teru completely baffled. This seemed like the first time he'd met Shisu. Why did Shisu feel so competitive? Before Shisu could reply, Itachi suddenly spoke in a disapproving tone. "Shisu, if you have anything to say, go talk to me somewhere else. Don't be rude to Uncle Teru. You still respect this kind of person? It seems you're becoming more and more depraved, Itachi." Shisu's crimson Sharingans glared at Itachi, his eyes revealing his disappointment in him. Hyūga Teru, who had been standing nearby, lost his temper. "Hey, What do you mean by getting more and more depraved? Can you please explain yourself clearly, and whether he's depraved or not, can you just say that? Did Itachi neglect his training, or did he do something unforgivable? Not only can you not maintain the minimum composure of a ninja, but you're also making inappropriate judgments. Do you think you can be considered cultured? Shisu, already on the verge of a rage, was further angered by Hyūga Teru's words. He suddenly pulled out a folded book from his ninja tool bag. Did you give Itachi such a disrespectful book? He's only 10 years old. How could you give him a book like that? Is he still cultured? I think the clan leader made a mistake letting Itachi study with you. This time it was Hyūga Teru's turn to be confused. But at least he was much thicker-skinned than before. He quickly regained his composure and met Shisu's questioning gaze. So what if I gave it to him? So what if he's young? Although it's generally agreed that people under 18 can't read books like this, but geniuses can never be judged by common sense. I believe Itachi can accept the useful parts of this book and discard the bad parts. If you think this kind of book is only harmful, then I have nothing to say. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, Itachi's Amazing Operation. Upon hearing this, Shisu gritted his teeth. Dregs are dregs. If this thing had any benefits, it wouldn't be considered unacceptable. The fact that it's unacceptable only means it's extremely harmful. Do you think gambling and drugs, one of the 3 forbidden things in ninja, are also beneficial? Hyūga Teru shook his head and smiled. I've always hated gambling and drugs, but I don't think pornography, one of the 3 forbidden things, is particularly serious, because you can see that everyone from the Hokage to some great figures in the past, and even quite a few geniuses, have been involved in this. The Sandaime, Jiraiya-sama, and Konoha's #1 genius, Kakashi. You might not have come into contact with the other 2, but you can try Kakashi. Hearing Hyūga Teru's words, Shisu was extremely surprised. Especially since the old man he respected so much was mentioned by Hyūga Teru as someone who frequently encountered something he considered dregs. Shisu couldn't help but suspect Hyūga Teru was lying. I don't believe it. The 3rd Hokage couldn't possibly be that kind of person. Jiraiya-sama has a very good opinion of Fuuya and has never heard of him having any bad habits. As for Kakashi, as the captain of the Anbu, he's always been conscientious and responsible. As a highly cultured ninja, how could he possibly be exposed to such things? Hyūga Teru put his hands behind his head, grinning wildly. They say it's a matter of opinion. Those whose minds can't filter out the dross suffer from it, while those with a clear mind and a firm heart can absorb its essence. Whether it's the 3rd Hokage, Jiraiya, or Kakashi, they're clearly the best of the best. If you're questioning what I'm saying, could you please research it first? Shisu looked 15 or 16, yet he was so resistant to this. It really surprised Hyūga Teru. If he hadn't known it was Shisu, he would have thought it was a discipline committee member from out of nowhere, specifically sent to collect those who were over 18. But, what's with Itachi? He'd been warned repeatedly not to take the book out in public. How did Shisu find out, and even take the whole thing? Or did he consider Shisu a decent person, and even read it with him? That's quite possible. After all, Itachi was usually taciturn, and only very close to Shisu. He probably treated Shisu as a friend, sharing good things, but Shisu wasn't particularly resistant. But, maybe Shisu was secretly monitoring Itachi's life, or maybe he stumbled upon it by accident. Maybe Itachi made some notes in the book, and Shisu immediately identified him. Given Itachi's seriousness, it's possible he could have done something like that. But then, wouldn't Shisu be a complete stalker of Itachi's life? Shisu choked for a moment, then calmed down his anger. I'll carefully verify what you've said. If the results are anything but what you've said, please stay away from Itachi. That was a bit strange, wasn't it? What did he mean by stay away from Itachi? Itachi himself was the one who often came to him, wasn't he? But Hyūga Teru still acted nonchalant. Then please go quickly and come back soon. Speaking of which, you can't filter out the dross in your brain. So, don't hold this book in your hands. What if you become corrupted? Shisu squeezed the book tightly in his hand, then returned it to his ninja tool bag. This is evidence that you led Itachi to his downfall. Don't think I'll give it to you just because you say that. Once I find out the truth, I'll take this evidence to the clan leader and expose you. With that, Shisu vanished in a gust of wind. A figure could be vaguely seen sprinting in a certain direction. It was unknown who Shisu would contact for verification, but it was most likely Kakashi. Kakashi had taken the work from him a few days ago. Hopefully, he won't be so engrossed that Shisu happens to catch him doing that. Just as Hyūga Teru was starting to feel overwhelmed, Itachi suddenly leaped onto the roof and half knelt before him, apologetically. "I'm sorry, Uncle Teru. Shisu was so rude. And Itachi had just been watching, which was indeed unacceptable, morally speaking. But Hyūga Teru didn't care. Instead, he was curious about how Shisu had caught Itachi reading adult books. "Itachi, you did go a little too far just now, but I'll forgive you. Just tell me how Shisu caught you. Didn't I tell you before that this shouldn't be made public? Have you forgotten my advice?" Itachi shook his head immediately. "No, Uncle Teru, it was mainly because Shisu happened to come to me quietly, and I happened to be doing that, so, what?" Hyūga Teru's eyes widened. "You happened to be doing that? So Shisu saw it all." This news was truly shocking. Being caught doing that, how embarrassing would that scene be? But Shisu seemed to have a problem too. If he'd just knocked on the door, this wouldn't have happened, right? So what was going on? Itachi was utterly embarrassed, but already feeling guilty. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Actually, he didn't just see us secretly. He walked up to me and tried to stop me, and I panicked for a moment, but then I remembered what you said about not suppressing yourself or your body would suffer, so I just continued." Damn. So ferocious? No wonder Shisu was so angry. This behavior was bordering on perversion, wasn't it? Hyūga Teru's eyes nearly popped out of his head, suddenly remembering a joke from his past life. It seemed to say that if someone caught you doing that, if you stopped, you'd be the one embarrassed, but if you continued, everyone else would be embarrassed. Shisu must have been more than just embarrassed, it must have left an indelible psychological scar. No wonder he questioned me right away, stubbornly insisting that adult books were rubbish. If it were me, I'd have been furious. After all, in Shisu's eyes, Itachi's status was probably similar to that of a younger brother, right? This left Hyūga Teru at a loss for words. After calming down for a moment, he patted Itachi's shoulder. "Ahem, it's already happened. Just keep doing it from now on, but it's best to be secretive and have a shadow clone nearby to investigate." Itachi nodded, but then blinked curiously. "Uncle Teru, are the Sandaime, Jiraiya-sama, and even Kakashi, the Jonin, truly experts in this field?" Hyūga Teru smiled and nodded. "Of course, when have I ever lied to you? The Sandaime and Jiraiya-sama might be good at hiding it, but Kakashi is unashamed, even walking around with a book like this." Speaking of which, Kakashi didn't know the traditional craft before. It was only a few days ago, when he'd picked up the book and complained about feeling unwell, that Hyūga Teru kindly taught him. I wonder if Shisu will have such bad luck this time. Chapter 63, The Day of Seeking Jade begins to show its power. Hyūga Teru, don't think you can fool me just because you're Kakashi. You can't get away. Today, I'm going to rid Konoha of this evil. Don't chase me, really don't. I'm really not Hyūga Teru. I'm Kakashi. I already told you you've got the wrong guy, and you still say you're not him, the one who did that disgraceful thing? It couldn't have been anyone else but Hyūga Teru. A Jounin like Kakashi couldn't have fallen that far. That thing was definitely mine. But that was in my house, and I'm really not Hyūga Teru. Shut up, Hyūga Teru. You're the root of Konoha's corruption. You shouldn't be alive. Kakashi quickly explained as he ran. Shisu chased after him, his eyes piercing with murderous intent. Many tried to stop Shisu, but he fainted at the sight of those crimson eyes. Despite Shisu's incredible speed, he was occasionally stopped. This allowed Kakashi to stay ahead. The two of them raced along, and when they saw the familiar house, Kakashi's eyes suddenly lit up. "Kakashi, you're still saying it wasn't Hyūga Teru transformed? You're running toward your own house. What else do you want to explain?" Kakashi was on the verge of tears. Shisu's sudden intrusion into his house had frightened him to the point of paralysis. Before he could even pull up his pants, Shisu suddenly drew his sword. He desperately tried to mistake him for Hyūga Teru, encountering numerous Anbu and guard ninja along the way, but Shisu would rather defeat them directly than pursue him. If he didn't go directly to Hyūga Teru, the real culprit, would he go after the third Hokage? How humiliating would it be if this matter was brought to the third Hokage? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A myriad of shurikens suddenly whistled from behind, giving Kakashi a sudden alertness. Thump, thump, thump. A dull sound ripped through Kakashi. After a puff of smoke, Kakashi disappeared in an instant, leaving behind a wooden stake riddled with shurikens. As expected of someone recognized by the clan leader, "Don't think you can escape my pursuit just like that." Shisu's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and his fierce gaze shifted to the distant residence. At this moment, Kakashi was tearfully pouring out his grievances to Hyūga Teru, as if he had suffered a great injustice. "You were the one who instigated all this, weren't you? Why did you drag me into this? If that guy keeps talking nonsense, how can I stay in Konoha?" Seeing Kakashi's emotional expression, Hyūga Teru really wanted to tell him that it would be better for him not to stay in Konoha. But this was obviously impossible, so he pointed at his mask. "It's really my fault. I just wanted him to see your daily life. Who knew it would be such a coincidence that he would run into you at that? But since you always wear a mask, you don't have to worry too much about what others say about you, right? No one knows what you look like anyway." "Oh, wait. I feel like if you take off the mask, there might be a lot of widowed women who'd come to you. This is also a great opportunity." Hyūga Teru raised his eyebrows, looking like you understand. Kakashi understood, but he was in a bad mood inside. Forget it. The previous incident was embarrassing enough. Who cares about it now? "You should think of a way to stop him," Kakashi said, pointing to Shisu who was on the roof, slowly drawing his sword. He couldn't help but pat Hyūga Teru on the shoulder and gave him a look that told him to be careful. However, Shisu suddenly shouted, "Don't think you can fool me with your shadow clone transformation jutsu. I won't let either of you go. I'll completely eliminate you today." Kakashi had been feeling relieved, but suddenly his scalp tingled. If Shisu believed that he was the result of Hyūga Teru's shadow clone and transformation jutsu, then wouldn't that mean he wasn't Kakashi? Helpless, Kakashi could only plead with Shisu, hands spread out. "I'm the real Kakashi. What do you have to say to make you believe me? He's the real Hyūga Teru. What do you want to find him for? He's been chasing me all this way. Just let me go." He had come to Hyūga Teru's place to divert his hatred. But Shisu wouldn't stop. What was going on? Shisu still looked at Kakashi with a look of contempt. "Filthy bug, Kakashi, a Jonin, isn't as awful as you. You're definitely a shadow clone of Hyūga Teru using a transformation jutsu. You can't fool me," Shisu roared, his katachi held before him, a surge of chakra suddenly erupting from his body. Instantaneous body jutsu, whoosh. Suddenly, a gust of wind suddenly rose, centered around Shisu. Around Shisu, more than a dozen identical figures appeared. The moment the shadow clones were activated, all of them leaped into the courtyard in unison, swiftly rushing towards the two. Is this Shisu's unique instantaneous body jutsu? He's already used his signature technique. It seems the fight is inevitable. Kakashi's expression was gloomy, and he reached for his ninja tool bag. But Hyūga Teru stopped him. "After all, it's all my fault, so just stay put." Tenseigan chakra mode. Activate. In the blink of an eye, Hyūga Teru was draped in a sky blue robe, giving him an enigmatic look. Especially those deep eyes, which seemed to twinkle with stars. That strange chakra cloak again. Kakashi was momentarily surprised, then relieved. After all, Hyūga Teru was a man the Raikage could defeat. Even the renowned Shisu was far inferior to the Raikage. As Shisu scooted closer, he noticed the change in Hyūga Teru and his expression immediately grew more serious. "They say illusions are useless against you, so try this one, Uchiha style. Sun Halo Dance." More than a dozen Shisu instantly transformed into hurricane-like hurricanes, arriving at Hyūga Teru and Kakashi's side in the blink of an eye, their katanas suddenly engulfed in flames. More than a dozen Shisu suddenly launched 3 consecutive slashes, and over 30 flames instantly shot out around the two men, like a blooming flaming flower. Such a formidable attack. Without the instant body flicking technique or a double, there's no way to dodge it, right? Kakashi panicked, and was about to form a hand seal. But Hyūga Teru simply waved his hand casually. Seeking Truth Jade, a mysterious black sphere suddenly appeared, then rapidly expanded, enveloping the two men. Boom boom boom. Blazing flames, accompanied by sharp sword strikes, bombarded the Seeking Truth Jade with a deafening sound like a bomb exploding. But after such a terrifying attack, the black sphere remained unchanged, both inside and out, as if it had never been attacked. What is this thing? It's so hard? Is it a special weapon? Shisu stared at the massive black sphere in disbelief, his expression growing even more serious. Chapter 64 God-level Mangekyo Rinnegan. Ling. The host is detected battling Shisu. Congratulations. The host has earned a unique sign-in for a sword fight with Shisu. Sword fight with Shisu, unique sign-in. Defeat Shisu with swordsmanship alone within an hour to receive a mysterious reward. Hyūga Teru was delighted upon hearing the system notification. Swordsmanship was the most common ability he had signed in with, so a sword fight with Shisu wouldn't be too difficult. Furthermore, based on the patterns of previous unique sign-ins, completing a unique sign-in offered a high probability of gaining one of Shisu's abilities. Shisu's abilities, while simple, were incredibly useful. However, to prevent being robbed of a kill, Kakashi had to be warned. Kakashi, stand back for a while. It would be bad if you get caught in it, Kakashi replied after a moment's pause. I understand, but what is this? A special ninjutsu? Or a weapon? Just think of it as a weapon. Hyūga Teru smiled and waved his hand, transforming the black sphere barrier into a thin stick. The two of them immediately appeared before Shisu. At that moment, Shisu's expression suddenly turned cold. You know you can't hide anymore, so you finally dare to show up, for Konoha to return to purity, you filthies. Prepare to be annihilated. Shisu suddenly had a bit of a Chunibyo, middle school, moment. Kakashi, who was choosing a safe place, muttered in annoyance. Isn't it just reading that kind of book and doing that kind of thing? Is it really necessary to react so strongly? But what left him speechless was that Shisu seemed to have heard what he said. His eyes, sharp as an eagle's, stared at him intently even as he moved. Only when he stopped did they retract. Damn, is this guy crazy? Why is he so obsessed with him, an unrelated person? Kakashi was almost going crazy. It seemed, if he tried to sneak away now, he would probably be stopped immediately. And Hyūga Teru was also a little surprised by Shisu's reaction. He even wondered if Kakashi had gone all out, just like Itachi had when he did that. That's why he'd left Shisu with a psychological scar. To the point where he was now a bit frantic. You're fighting me with just a stick. Shisu withdrew his gaze fixed on the Dao-seeking jade stick. Hyūga Teru couldn't help but chuckle. A powerful person can defeat a supreme expert with just a branch. Actually, a stick is more than enough to fight you, Shisu snorted angrily upon hearing this. This weapon certainly demonstrated impressive defense just now, but to think you can defeat me with just a stick is a bit too arrogant. All of Shisu's figures shot out in unison. Each shadow clone seemed to be accompanied by a gust of wind. Uchiha style. Wind blade, Shisu's shadow clones sped up again, surrounding Hyūga Teru in the blink of an eye. Holding their flaming katachi, they slashed at him at breakneck speed. Boom. A scorching wave of flames instantly engulfed Hyūga Teru. But Hyūga Teru suddenly leaped into the air. However, Shisu, as if anticipating this, appeared behind Hyūga Teru like a ghost. Flash slash, Shisu's katana suddenly unleashed a flaming slash, slashing at Hyūga Teru repeatedly. But Hyūga Teru's smile remained unspoken. The trajectory of the Dao-seeking jade staff, swung in his fingers, suddenly became ethereal. God-level Goryu. Rika slash, the Dao-seeking jade staff swung through the air, leaving an afterimage. At an extremely tricky angle. It pierced through Shisu's dense stream of slashes behind him and pierced his chest. Seeing the Dao-seeking jade staff thrust towards his chest, Shisu was initially surprised. But then his face was filled with disdain. If it had been a knife, he might have been wary. But this staff was not sharp at all, let alone in midair. What if this thing could kill him? But the next moment, he knew he was wrong, horribly wrong. Boom. A dull crash suddenly echoed. The black jade stick, growing several times larger and thicker, smashed into his chest with a crushing, oppressive sound. Like the steel column of a pile driver, the impact was incredibly powerful, propelling him even higher. Seeing Hyūga Teru already on the ground, Shisu felt as if a neat, circular mark had been left on his chest. It burned, swollen, and painful, and his chest felt tight. It was hard to imagine this was caused by a blunt object. If it had been a knife, he would have been stabbed through and through. Puff. Shisu spat out a mouthful of blood as resentment welled up in his heart. Then, his consciousness gradually faded as he fell to the ground. Shisu's shadow clone on the ground had no time to react. Hyūga Teru swiftly chopped him apart with a stick. After finishing his task, Shisu landed in Hyūga Teru's hands and was casually carried. Ling. Successfully signed in for the swordsmanship duel with Shisu. Congratulations to the host for receiving the Divine Sharingan upgrade reward, Divine 3 Magnetama Sharingan, Divine Mangekyo Sharingan. The power of the eyes is increased to that of the 7 Magnetama Rinnegan. While lacking any proprietary eye techniques, it can wield the full-strength Susanoo, allowing the host to transform its color and form at will. After the system notification sounded, Hyūga Teru felt an inexplicable burning sensation in his eyes, as if a surge of power was about to erupt. However, it soon returned to calm. Although he didn't obtain Kado Matsukami, Hyūga Teru wasn't too disappointed. In fact, if Kakashi hadn't been around, he'd have even wanted to see the patterns on his Mangekyo. After all, for him now, power didn't matter, handsomeness was what mattered. For example, the Susanoo's appearance, with a choice of colors, was a nice touch. When would he show off a whole, effeminate pink Susanoo? Or even a full-color Susanoo display would be fantastic. Meanwhile, seeing Shisu completely transformed into a soft sack, held in Hyūga Teru's hands, Kakashi finally breathed a sigh of relief and cast an admiring glance at Hyūga Teru. What an amazing fight! I never thought Shisu, the dreaded master of the Kurigakure, would be defeated in just a few moves. Hyūga Teru immediately responded modestly. It's just so-so. No matter how strong Shisu is, he can't be stronger than the Raikage, right? That sword technique you just used seemed familiar, a bit like the Yunryu style, Kakashi casually remarked, startling Hyūga Teru. You can see that. I just thought it was good. I just copied it casually, so it's not a great move, Kakashi said with a smile. It might not be great for you, but it would be amazing for others, like how you just defeated Shisu with it, but that's nothing. The major ninja villages all copy each other's ninjutsu, not to mention swordsmanship. Kakashi then looked at Shisu. There doesn't seem to be anything else to do now, so why don't I go back first? However, Hyūga Teru immediately stopped him. No, I think you should stay. Otherwise, he might not give up so easily. Chapter 65 Secret Swordsmanship. We have to stay. It would be terrible if we stay, right? Kakashi took a step and tried to leave. Hyūga Teru shook his head and said seriously, this is a rare opportunity. I heard you said that when you first arrived, you encountered people from the ANBU and the security department along the way. No one has found this place yet, which means that many of the ANBU and security department members you encountered along the way may have been defeated by him. This matter is definitely serious. It will probably be reported to the higher-ups. In his current state, he probably wants to tell everyone about us and you. Kakashi, who hadn't taken it seriously at first, suddenly felt his feet take root and he stood still. He turned around immediately with sweat on his forehead and his eyes fell on Shisu. Then, what should I do? He doesn't seem to be so easy to talk to. Should I wait for him to wake up and force him to say something that would benefit us? Hyūga Teru shook his head immediately. He's not one to be tough, and soft tactics won't do much for him. Only by disrupting his perception will there be any slight effect, so my idea is to drag him into this trap. That way, we'll all be similar, have leverage over each other, and won't dare to say anything. Kakashi's dead eyes widened considerably. Can someone like him really be dragged into this trap? Are you sure he'll be interested in these things? Hyūga Teru said with a half-smile. He's just never been exposed to them before, and his first impression isn't very good, so naturally he's very resistant to them. We just need to do this, and we can pique his curiosity, and even make him endure physical discomfort to see these things, just to prove his will. That seems promising. I'll cooperate then. Kakashi's eyes immediately lit up, thinking that what Hyūga Teru said might actually work, and he agreed. Quickly, the two of them tied Shisu tightly and blindfolded him. Then, they woke him up using special means. Upon waking, he felt his body bound, his eyes covered, and even his chakra confined. Shisu immediately realized that it was Hyūga Teru and Kakashi who were responsible, and he flew into a rage. You filthy bugs, are you trapping me like this to silence me? I won't surrender, not even if I die. Seeing Shisu's impotent rage, Hyūga Teru couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle. With your limited stature, you pretend to be righteous and resolute. I see you're all tough on the outside, but inside you're terrified, and you could easily destroy us with just one sword, so what right do you have to call us bugs? Aren't you even worse than bugs by comparison? I see you've always lived in a pampered environment, and you can't stand even the slightest bit of darkness or filth. Even the slightest touch would instantly corrupt you, right? Shisu gritted his teeth in anger at first, but soon broke into a smile. You filthy bugs, don't think you can change my mind with that. I'd rather die banging my head against a wall than fall with you. Shisu was so vigilant. Hyūga Teru was a little surprised, but not entirely surprised. His gaze shifted to Kakashi. Kakashi's voice, tinged with disappointment, echoed at the perfect moment. It's incredible that Shisu, the man feared by Kurigakure, has only this much to endure, but it's understandable that you're young and don't know much about many things. Actually, it was Jiraiya-sama who recommended this to me, and the first book I read was also written by Jiraiya-sama. Actually, neither I, Hyūga Teru, nor Jiraiya-sama are simply reading books. We're practicing special training to become stronger. Shisu snorted in complete disbelief. How could Jiraiya-sama write such a book? Are you trying to trick me? Kakashi smiled and thrust a book with an orange cover into Shisu's hands. Whether it's a lie or not, you can see for yourself. I happen to have a copy of Jiraiya-sama's book here, so you should use your own eyes to determine. Meanwhile, Hyūga Teru began to untie Shisu and then removed his blindfold. After being released, Shisu's curiosity immediately turned to Jiraiya's masterpiece. After all, he was a disciple of the third generation, and he would never believe that someone would write such a vulgar book. Shisu stared at Jiraiya's masterpiece carefully, but just the author's name on the cover startled him. Then he flipped through the contents of the book very eagerly. Although the pace was very slow, many words or dialogues were full of ambiguity. Shisu, who had been a monk for more than 10 years, felt that it was bold and explicit after seeing just a little bit, and his imagination ran wild. After reading it over and over for a long time, he stared at the two of them with gritted teeth. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. Master Jiraiya can't write such a book. You must be lying to me. Hyūga Teru, who had expected this, immediately spread his hands. If you insist on thinking that, then we can't help it. But no matter how you doubt it, this book is indeed one of the ways to become stronger. At least Kakashi and I are so powerful because we've diligently studied these books. And if you suspect we're faking it, these books are actually available in many bookstores. Seeing Hyūga Teru's shamelessness, Kakashi couldn't help but become bolder. Actually, what you just saw was me practicing swordsmanship. Especially the sword I held in my hand, which only awakens when reading this kind of book. However, unlike ordinary swords, frequent use of this sword will not improve your abilities, but it will allow you to experience a certain indescribable peak. However, every time you practice this sword technique, your body will be a little weak. This is probably the price of becoming stronger, Hyūga Teru immediately added seriously. But this sword technique is a secret one, taught only to a select few with exceptional talent. Not only did you spy on our secret swordsmanship practice, but you also think we're filthy. I think it's your own mind filled with filth, that's why you see everything as filthy. You can dislike us if you want, or expose us to others. But if you dare spread this secret sword technique around, don't blame us for being merciless. The two spoke with such seriousness. Shisu was stunned. Thinking about it, it seemed that the technique did resemble swordsmanship. So he was really mistaken? But the contents of this book were indeed the 18+ content he knew. Could this kind of book really be used for training? Before Shisu could comprehend everything, several figures suddenly appeared on the roof of the mansion. Seeing Shisu sitting quietly, along with Hyūga Teru, Kakashi, and the others, they were shocked. Teru, what happened here? I heard Shisu beat up a lot of people. Are you all okay? Fugaku asked nervously. The Anbu ninja also gave Kakashi a questioning look. Captain Kakashi, what exactly happened here? Chapter 66, Too Simple Shisu. The arrival of the guards and Anbu was also expected. Hyūga Teru and Kakashi exchanged glances for a moment before each giving their own answer. It wasn't a big deal, just an ordinary swordsmanship exchange, but Shisu took it a little too seriously. Well, Shisu is quite an honest kid, and he takes things very seriously once he sets his mind to them. I heard he defeated quite a few guards and Anbu members in the process, so they should be okay, right? Fugaku couldn't help but look at Shisu. He saw Shisu stuffing an orange book into his ninja tool bag. Fugaku wasn't too curious, so he just raised his voice and asked, Shisu, is that so? Because you were too serious about exchanging swordsmanship, you injured quite a few people. Shisu lowered his head, as if he had done something wrong, and hesitated for a long time before answering. Probably, yes, I'm really sorry, clan leader. Before Shisu could finish, Fugaku spoke in a serious tone. Alright, if you do something wrong, you must accept the corresponding punishment. Considering you didn't cause any casualties, I'll temporarily detain you for 15 days. The Anbu ninja was somewhat embarrassed by the swift punishment. They turned to Kakashi, seemingly seeking help. Kakashi, however, spread his hands. Things like fighting are indeed handled by the security department. Although many root members have been assaulted, the final judgment still rests with the security department. You should return. Clan leader Fugaku's judgment is absolutely correct. Yes, the Anbu ninja hesitated, but the important figures present seemed unanimous. There was no point in persisting. The Anbu men left. Fugaku also left with Shisu. Hyūga Teru and Kakashi finally breathed a sigh of relief. If Shisu had just spoken frankly, it would have been incredibly embarrassing. Fortunately, Fugaku was quite astute. Perhaps because he knew Shisu well, he interrupted him before he could say anything more. However, Kakashi, who had just been so cooperative, quickly changed his expression. Speaking of which, Teru, you seem a bit dishonest. I feel like you orchestrated all this on purpose. Bringing me along to trick Shisu was a premeditated plan, wasn't it? What's your motive? It's not good to corrupt a child this early, is it? Kakashi had no idea of Shisu's hidden dangers. He seemed to think he was simply trying to corrupt the child. Hyūga Teru felt a little helpless, but could only smile in acknowledgement. He's almost an adult. It's okay to corrupt him a little bit early, right? Besides, tricking him like this doesn't necessarily mean he'll actually be corrupted. Maybe he'll take Jiraiya-sama's book seriously and practice with it. Practicing with that book is all bullshit, right? How could anyone actually take it seriously? Kakashi's lips twitched speechlessly, still perplexed. Then why did he initially think you were a dirty person? With your qualifications, you shouldn't need to do that, right? Or did he just happen to see you doing it? He could admit to corrupting a child. Of course, he couldn't admit to being caught reviewing traditional skills. After all, living conditions were so good these days, and still reviewing traditional skills? Even a single man like Kakashi would probably look at him with disdain. Ahem, of course, it wasn't that I was caught doing that. Actually, he saw my book, and he knew it was my work, so he thinks I'm particularly vile. Just because someone saw my book, he thinks you're vile. Kakashi grew even more suspicious. Isn't that too strict? He shouldn't be bothering you with something like that, right? Kakashi asked too many questions. Hyūga Teru was in the wrong, so he patiently continued to explain. It's mainly because you caught clan leader Fugaku reading my book and felt I had corrupted him, so he was furious and wanted to ask for an explanation. I had no choice but to make up excuses, saying that powerful people read this and that because they hold hidden benefits for becoming stronger. Now that Fugaku was gone, Hyūga Teru unburdened himself by passing the buck. Kakashi suddenly realized, but then his eyes narrowed. Although I support you writing books, you're putting all this trouble on me, and even making me do something so immoral as to trick children. I think you really need to compensate me, or I won't leave your place today. Hyūga Teru was a little surprised, suddenly sensing something was off with Kakashi. Though the mask obscured his expression, his eyes held an inexplicably lewd quality. But after a moment's reflection, he vaguely guessed what Kakashi was getting at. Didn't you just give you one book, and you're going for the next one? Aren't you being too quick? Kakashi said cheerfully. Ever since I read your books, the market seems so bland. Why don't you just produce one right now? Send me your next book as soon as it's finished. Isn't that too much to ask? After understanding Kakashi's intentions, Hyūga Teru was speechless. Okay, but are you really planning on staying single forever? Kakashi said with a naive smile. Finding a woman is a real hassle. I actually prefer my freedom. It's unclear whether he truly loves freedom or not. Kakashi was so insistent that Hyūga couldn't say much. They agreed on a time to finish their book next time, and then they parted ways. Kakashi went home. Hyūga went to the security department's detention center. Thanks to Fugaku's connections, he met Shisu almost immediately. Upon seeing it was Hyūga, Shisu suddenly put something away, as if he were a thief. What are you doing here? Shisu's tone was tinged with displeasure. But Hyūga didn't care. Of course I came here to see if you've been practicing swordsmanship recklessly. I forgot to tell you before that this secret swordsmanship cultivates the state of mind. That indescribable peak is the pinnacle of the swordsmanship state of mind. If you can master it, you can become as powerful as me. Shisu, however, showed little desire. Instead, he became wary. So, Are you trying to teach me this swordsmanship? You have no reason to teach me, do you? Shisu was clearly no fool. But he was a little too naive. Hinata gathered his thoughts and said, this sword technique looks simple, but even if you don't want to practice, I still want to remind you that practicing it is risky. Whether you want to practice or not, you already know the general moves. So I still have to tell you the precautions. Shisu paused for a moment and said, I wasn't planning to practice. Hyūga Teru smiled. Not practicing now doesn't mean not practicing in the future. You'd better listen carefully. Although Shisu repeatedly stated that he would not practice, Hyūga Teru still explained to him the precautions of practicing. He didn't know if it was an illusion. As he left, Shisu's eyes softened. Chapter 67, Ninja World Good Puppet. Ling. Sign-in successful at the Uchiha clan territory. Congratulations to the host for achieving the 7-day Uchiha sign-in achievement and obtaining the Mangekyō Jutsu Amaterasu, where the pupils are focused, a powerfully destructive black flame ignites, persisting until the target is consumed. Hyūga Teru, who was treating a chicken, was stunned. After a moment's thought, he filled the chicken's interior with spices. He instantly activated his Mangekyō Sharingan and focused it on the spice area. A small black flame suddenly rose, slowly devouring the spices within the chicken. Hyūga Teru then speared the chicken with a steel pipe, his eyes fixed on its surface. In the blink of an eye, the entire chicken was engulfed in black flames, as if coated in a layer of black paint. Hyūga Teru himself was amazed at the ability to perform such a maneuver. It's quite easy to control, and the burden doesn't seem too great. Amaterasu wasn't god level, but that didn't disappoint him. In fact, all Mangekyō Jutsu, enhanced by his god level Mangekyō Sharingan, could become extremely powerful. Like the current Amaterasu, he could not only point and cook anything, changing its shape at will, but also use it for extended periods of time. The use of Amaterasu was measured by the time it took. However, after cooking a chicken, his eyes felt completely refreshed. Smelling the rich aroma, Hyūga Teru stopped the Amaterasu. A chicken, every inch of its skin evenly golden, suddenly appeared before him. It was a result that no other cooking utensils could achieve. To cook a chicken to near perfect consistency, Hyūga Teru primarily thought of using it to cook noodles. Almost every time he thought about cooking noodles, his abilities would be mastered with unimaginable mastery. With this sudden increase in proficiency, even after finishing a pot of noodles, his abilities would see a noticeable increase in proficiency even when he used them in his spare time. Making noodles was about satisfying his appetite and also about increasing his proficiency in various abilities. Sometimes, he felt that if he were given the god-level ramen making ability alone, he might even become a top-tier expert. After breakfast was ready, it was time for a lively meal. Not only were Hyūga Teru and Hyūga Natsu there, but Niji, Itachi, and Hinata were also there. As soon as they took a bite of the thinly shredded chicken, their expressions changed. It's delicious. Chicken in ramen is so delicious. This chicken is even better than simply grilled chicken. How is it made? The chicken is so fragrant and tender, and after being soaked in the broth, it's like it's filled with rich, nutritious juice. It's almost delicious. Hyūga Teru was getting used to the four people's exaggerated praise. He quickly said modestly, if it's delicious, eat more. Don't be shy, Hyūga Teru said, and he put the chicken from his bowl into Hyūga Natsu's. Master, you gave me so much? You wouldn't have enough, right? Hyūga Natsu stared at Hyūga Teru with a puffy mouth. Hyūga Teru smiled. You eat yours. We're all adults now. How could I possibly starve myself? You should eat more. After all, you're not alone anymore. Hearing Hyūga Teru's words, Hyūga Natsu nodded happily. Lately, she'd been so busy writing a book that she often felt overwhelmed and needed to calm down. So often, Hyūga Natsu finally got her wish. She'd been clamoring for a child before. And now she'd finally gotten it. Now, you can almost always see her with a happy smile on her face. It seems that pregnancy has made her look a little goofy, and she's also been eating more. But this time, she didn't bury her head in her food, instead beaming at Hyūga Teru. Master, Natsu has a surprise for you today. A nice reward for your hard work. Oh, Hyūga Teru asked curiously. Is it something special? It has to be so secretive. Hyūga Natsu nodded. You'll find out tonight. I'll keep it a secret for now. Hyūga Teru didn't ask any more questions. Okay, then. Let me see your surprise tonight. Speaking of which, I happen to have something prepared, so how about we exchange gifts? Hinata lowered her head shyly. Whatever you say, let's get back to breakfast. The kids are here. Hyūga Teru chuckled. You're an old married couple, yet you're still so shy. But that's exactly what I like about you. Itachi and Niji were a little unsure about what to do after suddenly being fed some dog food. Hinata's cheeks, however, were flushed, practically steaming. It was afternoon. At an underground bounty shop in the Kingdom of Wind. To prepare a gift for Hinata, Hyūga Teru had been running to the underground bounty shop since she'd learned of her pregnancy. He'd posted a quest for a high-level puppet. The reward was a whopping 500 million ryo. It was said that many had already accepted the quest. The person in charge told Hyūga Teru that over 100 puppeteers had already arrived, bringing their creations for him to choose from. I thought few would take it. Now it's like a talent show. It's a bit nerve-wracking. Hearing Hyūga Teru's complaints, the beautiful receptionist leaned down, revealing her cleavage, as she explained. Your Excellency, you don't know that there are many skilled craftsmen in the Wind Country, but money is a constant rarity. With such a high price, I can easily afford to buy a whole group of craftsmen, not just a puppet. Apparently, to entertain this important customer, the bounty agency had booked out the best restaurant nearby and selected the most beautiful women in the area to serve him. He probably only needed a glance from this utterly charming woman to spark a series of wonderful stories. But now, he had to get down to business, and besides, he was also choosing a gift for Hinata Natsu. Hyūga Teru hadn't lost some self-control. With a sigh, he addressed the lady. Then quickly have them all come in and demonstrate. If they're good, I'll buy them. Yes, the beautiful lady walked out, seemingly complaining that nothing had happened, looking slightly disappointed. She began summoning the strange puppeteers outside. The first to enter was an old man, covered in bandages, resembling a beggar. He walked inside with a sturdy gait and handed over a puppet model. The puppet was a bit unusual. It wasn't a traditional monster. Instead, it was a humanoid puppet composed of a single, tiny structure. However, in the hands of the old puppeteer, it could be transformed into a variety of shapes. Sir, this is the free-form puppet I've spent over 20 years developing. It can transform into almost any shape. With enough imagination, it can take on almost any form, at home, traveling, opening doors and picking locks, or simply helping with mobility. It's the most convenient puppet. The old man's face was enthusiastic, his eyes full of admiration. Chapter 68 A Sudden Storm. Hyūga Teru narrowed his eyes and examined the data sheet the old man handed him. It must be said that the Wind Country is very professional in puppet manufacturing. The puppet model is available, and a data sheet is also provided, for those like Hyūga Teru who don't understand. After comparing the puppets on the market with the special puppet, Hyūga Teru shook his head. I'm sorry, old man, your puppet doesn't meet my requirements. Sir, take a look again. My puppet is really convenient. If it's made with enough precision, it can transform into 1,000 different forms. Even turning it into a woman wouldn't be a problem. The old man became agitated. Hyūga Teru's mouth twitched, and he immediately signaled to the beautiful lady beside him to shoo the old man away. I really don't know what this old man is thinking. Turning into a woman? He's already spent 500 million on a puppet, but he can't buy a beautiful woman? After a while, the crisp sound of 2 high heels rang out. A tall, curvaceous, purple-haired woman walked in. Although lightly made up, her face was incredibly delicate, maintaining an intimidating and cool temperament. But upon seeing Hyūga Teru, her vibrant red lips finally cracked into a captivating smile. It must be said, this woman seemed far more stunning than the waitress. The waitress, seeing her, wore a clear look of resentment, as if she were blaming the woman for stealing her limelight. But the woman paid no heed to the waitress's gaze, confidently and seductively approaching Hyūga Teru, her striking cleavage visible. Sir, is this enough? If not, there's more inside. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Can we go into the inner room to discuss in detail? The woman's glances were captivating, and if it weren't for her slightly stiff expression, Hyūga Teru would have felt a little moved. To be able to achieve this level of appearance is already very impressive, but I really want to know, why do you all think I'm that kind of person? Can't you just give me a truly excellent puppet? I want a puppet that's practical in every way, not just excellent in one area. Click, click, click. The woman suddenly lost her mind, making the stiff, mechanical sound of movement. Then, from the wall of the room, A young woman suddenly appeared and giggled. Even the wealthy collectors of the Wind Country would be captivated by my puppet. I didn't expect you, sir, to remain unmoved. It's truly eye-opening. The young woman's bright eyes blinked as she gazed at Hyūga Teru, trying to understand him. She didn't forget to hand him a data sheet for him to review. The puppet's comprehensive data was better than the previous one, but not much different from any on the market. Perhaps this was why the woman had put so much effort into its appearance. However, behind the data, there was a small message that immediately caught Hyūga Teru's attention. This is a human puppet. The woman was startled by the sudden question, then frowned at Hyūga Teru. You want a custom human puppet? Hyūga Teru asked curiously. If I say so, you can actually make one for me? Human puppet making shouldn't be a skill that ordinary people can master, right? The woman's expression darkened, but she didn't hesitate for long. If I could really get 500 million ryo, I'd be fine doing it for you. As for where I got my skills, don't worry about it, I won't get you into trouble, although the woman seemed even more mysterious. Hyūga Teru didn't dwell on it. You should go down. A human puppet is just a human skin, with some ninjutsu advantages over ordinary puppets. I want a puppet that's simply powerful and easy to use. If you can come up with something more powerful, I'll spend 500 million on it. If not, forget it. This time, it was the woman's turn to be curious. You're not here for collectibles, but for high-quality combat puppets. Are you a puppeteer? No amount of explanation could dispel suspicion about such a thing. Hyūga Teru could only offer a half-hearted response. If you think so, then so be it. I'm spending so much money and demanding a puppet with decent combat capabilities. Isn't that right? The woman, her casual demeanor shone in earnest. You're spending so much money, so you're asking for powerful combat capabilities. However, the puppet's effectiveness depends primarily on the person using it. If the user isn't competent, no matter how many mechanical weapons it's equipped with, it's useless, Hyūga Teru said nonchalantly. If you can't produce a more powerful puppet, then leave. There are still many people outside, and I'm in a hurry. The woman curled her lips and had no choice but to leave. Soon, the waitress called in wave after wave of puppeteers. They didn't stay long before being kicked out. In the queue outside, the old man and the young woman who were eliminated first watched for a while and then met up. It seems these 500 million are not easy to get, sister, the young woman sighed. Yes, we can't figure out where this guy came from yet. We don't have to worry about other countries having puppeteers far superior to ours, but selling powerful puppets will still expose some of our technology. The old man's eyes turned cold. How about we just go all out and rob him of his money? It's a good thing there aren't many people here who are as skilled as us. Let's encourage them first, then we'll reap the benefits. By then, we won't be able to trace them back to us. The young woman's gaze flickered to the remaining people in line. Let's wait and see. It's not too late to strike when we get to the last few. Okay, let's wait and see. The old man's sinister expression faded, and he became an ordinary old man again. Time passed. Hyūga Teru had seen all sorts of incredibly bizarre puppets. It must be said that puppets, while mostly made of wood, with a few featuring steel mechanisms, have been brought to life by the Wind Country's artisans. Even the powerful puppets that fulfilled Hyūga Teru's vision of being animated by the Samsara are rare. Some are even inferior to the female puppet he had seen earlier. But strangely, whether it was a coincidence or something else, Hyūga Teru had once again encountered a similar idea to that of the old man and the young woman. If it weren't for the difference in their appearance, temperament and conversation, Hyūga Teru would have thought that the two had come back and taken advantage of the situation. Nearly 2 hours passed. Of the nearly 100 puppeteers, none of their works could meet Hyūga Teru's taste. However, none of the eliminated puppeteers left. After seeing the last puppeteer come out, their faces all became even gloomier. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In a flash of lightning, a large number of hidden weapons flew through the air, making sharp whistles. In just a blink of an eye, the wing room was turned into a sieve. Then, puppeteers in different costumes rushed towards the wing room. During this time, people kept falling to the ground with their heads flying and foaming at the mouth. After the attack on Hyūga Teru, the battle between the puppeteers also quickly broke out. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Scorpion and Kakuzu. However, amidst the clash between puppeteers, there was a unique competitor. Black lines stretched and retracted, leaving countless bloody holes on anyone they touched. It was incredibly terrifying. But whether it was a knife, an arrow, or a hammer, none of them could cause any physical discomfort or even injury to the green-eyed line-shaped monster. Just as he had dispatched most of the men, paralyzed by the few remaining old men, a man in a black robe and red hair beside him placed a hand on him. "Hey, Kakuzu, didn't I just say I'd attack later? Why did you attack first?" Countless black lines suddenly extended from Kakuzu's back, wrapping around the person behind him and quickly drilling into him. But after a series of clicking sounds, the lines retracted. "I just heard you say to attack immediately. Why didn't you join me? There's 500 million Ryo here. What if someone beats you to it if you don't act soon? Be beaten to it." Even with his strength, he's still afraid of being beaten to it. Scorpion was speechless, his dissatisfaction with Kakuzu growing even more. "Not to mention your early start, you just suddenly attacked me and stabbed me multiple times. Including the time we came here, that's the 5th time. I've told you so many times, and you're still acting on your own. Do you have ears for nothing?" Kakuzu's cold green eyes met Scorpion's. "I'm over 80 years old. I've always had a bad temper, and my ears aren't very sharp. But you're just a pile of wood. A few pokes won't kill you, will you?" Seeing Kakuzu's old, unmarried demeanor, Scorpion grew even more infuriated. He's old, so why stab people so easily? Who gave him that temper? You're such a troublesome old man, but don't think I'm easy to bully just because I'm young. I've had enough on this journey, Scorpion said, pulling a large scroll from his back and instantly unleashing his summoning technique. Bang! A cloud of smoke rose. From the smoke, a puppet in a black robe, with blue hair and a domineering aura slowly emerged. Kakuzu, however, seemed unfazed. "Are you sure you want to fight me? Think about it. You weren't even born when I fought the first Hokage." Scorpion couldn't help but chuckle. "It's quite exciting to fight someone like you who fought the first Hokage. And your incredibly strong body at over 80 is actually what attracts me even more." As Scorpion finished his words, the chakra threads on his fingers instantly connected to the puppet. The puppet immediately opened its arms and extended a long, large steel blade from its sleeves. Scorpion's face broke into a cruel smile, as if he wanted to dissect Kakuzu thoroughly. However, Kakuzu was no pushover. He enjoyed stabbing people with his black thread and was known for his extreme brutality. Beneath that mask, he even concealed a blazing rage. Young people these days have no sense of awe. A being like the first generation couldn't just destroy a small nation. "Well, I'll show you how powerful I am, someone who could fight the first generation," Kakuzu said as his body suddenly expanded. It felt as if countless black worms were hiding beneath his skin, slithering through its crevices. In the blink of an eye, 2 large clumps of black lines erupted from Scorpion. They transformed into 2 masked monsters. This didn't frighten Scorpion in the slightest. Instead, a sinister smile curled across his face. "You're truly a monster, but you're quite alluring this way." Kakuzu, who had never heard such praise before, was stunned for a moment. Then his eyes narrowed slightly. "I heard you can turn living people into puppets. Now you want to make me one too? How audacious. I wonder if you're capable of that," Kakuzu said as he suddenly rushed into the whole ridden room, leaving the 2 black line monsters staring coldly at Scorpion. Seeing this, Scorpion couldn't help but smile. "You're such a money grubber, old bastard. Since you've chosen to take the money first, don't blame me for being rude." Clang. The puppet suddenly stretched its arms and, like a bird, swooped down towards the 2 black line monsters. Boom! Before the close combat could even begin, a deafening roar erupted from the wing room. Kakuzu, who had just rushed in, was sent flying as if struck by a truck. Scorpion, about to launch his attack, abruptly stopped. "What's going on? What's going on in there? Why did this guy suddenly fly out?" Scorpion stared in astonishment at the cloud of dust. Suddenly, a figure radiating a surging blue light leaped out. I didn't expect Kakuzu, the traitorous ninja from Takigakure, and Scorpion, the traitorous ninja from Sand Village, to be here too. This trip was truly worthwhile. Hyūga Teru had actually intended to show up a while ago. But the waitress was trembling, so he could only console her for a moment, taking in the situation with his Byakugan. He discovered that among the visitors, 4 possessed a strong aura, 2 of whom were particularly strange. 5 hearts pounded. a heart and various veins, tangled together in a barrel-like object. After observing for a while, Hyūga Teru was certain it was Kokuzu and Sasori. He'd wanted to see the two of them fight each other, but Kokuzu suddenly rushed in, leaving him helplessly standing. At the sudden mention of their names, Kokuzu and Sasori's expressions changed drastically. "Who the hell are you? Did you deliberately lead us here?" Kokuzu's questioning paused. Sasori was taken aback. If he deliberately led us here, no wonder he recognized us immediately. Kokuzu slowly stood up, ripping off a portion of the burnt earth wrath armor, which exuded the aroma of burnt protein, and said sternly, "This guy is no ordinary person. Not only is his lightning release armor incredibly powerful, but the electricity is also incredibly intense. It's definitely not something an ordinary person could unleash." Sasori marveled. "Lightning armor can actually injure people. Rumor has it the Third Raikage could fight tens of thousands of people. Is his lightning armor this powerful?" After Scorpion's reminder, Kokuzu began to search his past memories, but his eyes suddenly narrowed. "This guy might, maybe even stronger than the Third Raikage. I'm afraid he'll be tough to deal with." "Oh?" Scorpion's voice was filled with immense joy, his smile growing increasingly bloodthirsty. "Stronger than the Third Raikage? That's a real surprise." Kokuzu's expression remained stern. "Who the hell are you? What's your purpose in luring us here?" Just as Hyūga Teru was debating what to do, the system chime sounded. Ling. Kokuzu and Scorpion's presence detected. "Congratulations to the host for achieving a check-in by defeating Kokuzu and Scorpion's personality. Check-in by defeating Kokuzu and Scorpion's personality. Completely defeat Kokuzu and Scorpion within an hour to receive a mysterious gift." Suddenly presented with a gift package. Hyūga Teru stopped thinking and regarded the two as if they were prey. "My purpose is actually very simple. I just want to kill you two, or be beaten to death by you two." Chapter 70, Scorpion and Kokuzu's Terror. Hearing Hyūga Teru say this, Kokuzu, who was extremely wary of Hyūga Teru, suddenly looked at him strangely. "This guy, is he a battle maniac? He's willing to spend 500 million to hire a puppeteer. Wouldn't it be better to just hire a powerful rebel ninja to do the fighting?" Kokuzu immediately labeled Hyūga Teru as having a bad brain. Scorpion, on the other hand, looked nonchalant. Whatever his motives, this guy probably has countless wealth. After all, a bounty agency that issues a 500 million tael mission requires a deposit of at least tens of millions of taels. "What do you think, Kokuzu? Do you want to work together to take down this guy? I'll take his body, and you'll take his money." Kokuzu, who had been somewhat relieved, heard Scorpion's words, but his eyes immediately changed. His cold green eyes ignited with a blazing fire. "It does sound good. Although I don't know your true strength, young man. But to be able to kill the Third Raikage and be invited into the organization, you must have some ability, right?" Scorpion couldn't help but sneer. "Old people are always nagging, but since you've agreed, we're temporary teammates. I can't say anything about cooperation later, but I hope you won't attack your own people again," Kokuzu replied irritably. "For the money, I've reluctantly agreed. But if you drag your feet, don't blame me for turning my back on you." Scorpion was speechless at Kokuzu's stubbornness, but seeing the lightning armor on Hyūga Teru, which seemed to be tangible, he suppressed his inner rage. "Let me see how powerful you, even more powerful than the Third Raikage, can be." Scorpion immediately controlled the Third Raikage puppet to dance. Fine, pitch-black particles quickly gathered on its shoulders. Magnetic release. Sand iron wings, the black particles suddenly condensed into the giant bird's wings, and with a powerful flap, it soared higher. At its peak, it suddenly swung its wings to the bottom, sending a dense stream of feathers cascading towards the ground. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Black wings, like arrows, shot through the air. Such a vast number of wings instantly enveloped Hyūga Teru. Yet, not only was Hyūga Teru unfazed, he shook his head in disappointment. A puppet that can use magnetic escape is truly powerful, though it's rather unsightly. But it's manageable, I guess. Hyūga Teru's azure eyes shone brightly as he spoke, and blue chakra instantly gathered in his hands. Life-giving, buzz. Blue chakra, like a meteor, suddenly shot out. Passing through the thicket of black wings, it instantly struck the Third Raikage's puppet. What's going on? Why did Sandatsu suddenly stop? Scorpion stared in disbelief at the black wings suspended in midair, sensing something was amiss. Crackling. As he had predicted, the Third Raikage's puppet suddenly twisted its head and stared at him. Its orange-yellow eyes seemed to have a new light. The chakra threads connecting it snapped in an instant. Master's order, destroy Scorpion of the Red Sand. The moment the third Kazakage puppet spoke, the black wings that had paused in front of Hyūga Teru suddenly reversed direction and shot wildly at Scorpion. Puppet. The puppet is alive. How is this possible? Scorpion's perception was profoundly shaken. He had always believed that those who fell into his control, transformed into human puppets, would be subject to his control for eternity. He had never imagined that this puppet would suddenly come alive and turn against its master. What kind of method was this? How could this happen? Even the puppet could betray? Could it be that the resentment attached to it was manipulated, causing it to suddenly resurrect? Kakuzu was also extremely surprised by the series of events, but he soon had to face the oppressive Hyūga Teru. Almost instantly, the man with blue lightning appeared behind him and patted his mask, causing every black line in his body to tremble. Ta-ta. Kakuzu quickly retreated a few steps, putting some distance between him and Hyūga Teru. Tisk-tisk, I thought you'd use the black lines on your body to seize the opportunity to attack me, but I didn't expect you to be so cowardly. You've fought the first Hokage, and this is all you can do? Do you think throwing a kunai from such a distance counts as a fight? Perhaps he'd hide a sore spot. A sudden flash of irritation crossed Kakuzu's face. Young man, don't think you can take me down just because you use some special tactics. Over the past 80 years, I've made a lot of progress. Oh? Really? Hyūga Teru chuckled playfully, then in the blink of an eye, slipped behind Kakuzu and tapped his mask again. This mask is very suspicious. Whenever I see one like this, I want to crack it open to see if there's a treasure hidden inside. Listening to the mask's tap-tap, Kakuzu felt a sense of surreality, his face turning an unpleasant green. He was hiding his life force inside. More than just a treasure. Whether this guy was feigning interest or genuine, he posed a grave threat, especially his astonishing speed. It even reminded him of the Golden Flash. But showing any sign of cowardice at this moment would be extremely fatal. Kakuzu's expression instantly turned icy, and he looked at Hyūga Teru as if he were dead. You're looking for death? With a stern shout, Kakuzu's black lines erupted in a dense black mass, enveloping Hyūga Teru. Yet, how could a lightning armor that even Yaga couldn't penetrate fear such soft black lines? Hyūga Teru didn't flinch, but took a step closer to Kakuzu. At the same time, his fist, brimming with violent arcs of electricity, slammed into one of Kakuzu's masks. Bang! Like a sudden explosion of explosives, Kakuzu's remarkably resilient black lines were instantly shattered, leaving a hole as big as a millstone in his body. And with that, 2 of his masks were shattered. Kakuzu, who originally had 5 masks, had always thought he had 5 lives, so he could do whatever he wanted. But now, not only did his opponent immediately target his masks, but he also destroyed 2 of them with a single blow. Even after patching himself up with black thread, Kakuzu couldn't help but stare at Hyūga Teru in horror. A second later, Hyūga Teru's devilish smile flashed. So, you opened 2 masks, but nothing's here. Did you hide the real treasure under the other masks? You're quite the mysterious one, but I actually love surprises. 2 of them haven't yielded anything yet, so the surprise must be in the remaining 3, right? Although Hyūga Teru's smile was extremely kind, Kakuzu saw it as terrifying as hell. The tentacles on his body seemed to have stopped moving. His entire body felt icy cold, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He had lived for over 80 years, but death had never been so close to him. Chapter 71 Defeat Kakuzu and Scorpion. If he continued to be hammered down, within 3 seconds, the legend of his immortality would be shattered. But, how could he divert his opponent's attention from the mask? Should he just peel it off and show him his sincerity? Or should he continue to ignore it, hoping he'd lose interest in his heart? It seemed that either option would be extremely risky. Mr. Kakuzu, I'm going to keep hammering. Please don't let me down. Seeing Kakuzu's slightly stunned expression, Hyūga Teru immediately raised his fist. Kakuzu quickly stepped back in fear, but suddenly a flash of blue light passed by. 2 bangs echoed, and the other 2 masks shattered. Kakuzu's body, lush and thriving, transformed into the emaciated look of a gigolo squeezed dry by a wealthy woman. The black wires dangling from Hyūga Teru's fists were instantly vaporized into ash by the powerful current. Step by step, the not-so-heavy footsteps echoed like the thumping of a bull drum in Kakuzu's heart. In the blink of an eye, 4 of his hearts were shattered. 5 lives, like nothing more than clay. If nothing unexpected happened, the enemy would kill him in an instant. Death was drawing ever closer, yet he still had no way to fight back. His despair was even greater than pain's before. Was he about to surrender again? Tisk, Kakuzu-san, you've hidden your treasure so well. Now there's only one left. Under that last mask, it should be it. Kakuzu's forehead was sweating, his calves trembling. No. You can't smash it anymore, don't smash it anymore, bang. The moment Kakuzu pleaded, his legs suddenly hit the ground, and he collapsed, dejected. Oh? Why can't I smash it anymore? If I wanted to, could you stop me? Hyūga Teru was a little surprised. Although he knew the enemy's life force was completely controlled, he still felt that Kakuzu's surrender was a little too quick. Was Kakuzu really that spineless? Shouldn't he? Kakuzu hung his head, shaking his head with a bitter face. I can't stop you at all, but I just don't understand what you want. A powerful person like you has no reason to challenge a weakling like me, right? Is it just for fun, or do you have other motives? Even if I die, at least let me die knowingly, right? Hyūga Teru clasped his arms around Kakuzu, looking down at him. The strong never tell the weak what they want to do. It's like if you step on an ant on the side of the road, do you have to tell it why you did it? But after all, you and I are from the same dimension. If you really want to survive, it's not impossible. I just hope you're willing to give up something. Kakuzu, feeling hopeless, thought he had no chance of survival. But Hyūga Teru actually gave him another chance. But Scorpion hadn't lost yet, so maybe there was still a chance, as long as he could stall for a little longer. Then, sir, what do you desire from us? If you'll spare our lives, Scorpion, and I will give you everything we have. Kakuzu said this as the black threads extending from his feet methodically drilled underground, slowly moving towards Hyūga's position. However, the black sand wrapped around the third Kazekage puppet rustled, and Scorpion was completely encased. Bang! A sonic boom like a cannonball. Suddenly, from a short distance, a large, tightly encased ball flew towards him. Kakuzu's red hairs revealed it to be Scorpion. Having hoped Scorpion would prove capable and cooperate in a desperate counterattack, Kakuzu was startled. His entire body trembling with fear. Even the black threads extending below the ground began to tremble and slowly retract. At this moment, the third Kazekage puppet, its clothes tattered but not seriously damaged, flew back and forth, bowing respectfully to Hyūga Teru. Master, Order 1 has been completed. Please issue Order 2, stay put, Hyūga Teru immediately commanded. Yes, the third Kazekage's puppet bowed in response, then stepped aside. Hyūga Teru was already incredibly powerful, and now with the once powerful Kazekage at his side, Kakuzu barely even dared to breathe. Kakuzu, kill this guy, hurry up. Scorpion struggled to speak, but he couldn't hide the rage in his eyes. Kakuzu's face was as grim as if he had eaten a fly. He wanted to grab Scorpion by the neck and ask him how he could kill such a powerful being. Seeing Kakuzu motionless, Scorpion grew even more impatient. Did you fight the first Hokage? After all these years, don't you have any powerful tactics? Kakuzu, growing increasingly anxious, stuffed a ball of black thread into Scorpion's mouth, glaring coldly at him. Shut up, brat. If you say anything more stupid, this master will kill you if he doesn't. Kakuzu was nearly mad with rage. He had already had a chance of survival. But Scorpion just kept talking nonsense, courting death with one blow after another. If Hyūga Teru hadn't made any movement, he would have seriously considered tearing Scorpion apart alive. Defeat Kakuzu and Scorpion's personality check-in successfully. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Earth Grudge Creation Technique, a Super Shadow level puppet, and the God level 100 Machine Manipulation Technique, Earth Grudge Creation Technique. Spend 1 chakra to create a modified Earth Grudge, similar to Parasite. Through this Earth Grudge, you can inherit 50% of another person's bloodline. Each Earth Grudge can inherit 1 bloodline, and each person can use up to 2. To inherit a bloodline, simply devour the other person's blood. Super Shadow level puppet, a puppet with customizable appearance, abilities, and other aspects, surpassing the power of a shadow level puppet by several times its original strength. God level 100 Machine Manipulation Technique, extending hundreds of chakra strands. Hundreds of connected puppets can reflect the puppeteer's will, without the need for finger control. Hyūga Teru was quite pleased with this sudden acquisition of 3 rewards. 100 machine manipulation aside, the other 2 seemed to hold immense potential. Creating earth resentment and inheriting the bloodline would allow him to train subordinates in the future. Would that mean he could enhance them however he wanted? And the super shadow level puppets, with their customizable appearance and abilities, were simply too sweet. If he didn't need a wife right now, he'd have wanted to create something like Ram and Rem to serve as his personal maid. Originally, the 500 million Ryo quest was intended to surprise Hinata Natsu with a puppet. He'd always thought the third Kazakage was unattractive and unlucky. Now, he could finally relax. Speaking of which, if this sign-in quest wasn't a one-time task, he'd have wanted to pin Scorpion to the ground and fight him a few more times to get a few more super shadow level puppets. Meanwhile, suddenly noticing Hyūga Teru's strange gaze towards Scorpion, Kokuzu quickly nodded and apologized. Sir, if you have any requests, please let me know. Even if it means asking me to kill this bastard, I will not show any mercy. Scorpion. Chapter 72, Pikachu. Kokuzu's complete betrayal of his teammates and their land still surprised Hyūga Teru. The Akatsuki organization had already recruited Kokuzu and Sasori, indicating complete control over the Rain Village. But how long had these two been recruited? Hyūga Teru couldn't say. Given their low sense of belonging, they were probably recruited relatively recently. However, their lack of loyalty to the Akatsuki didn't affect Hyūga much. Having a man like Kokuzu as a subordinate was simply too embarrassing. His strength was decent, but he couldn't defeat the third Hokage. Furthermore, his appearance was strange, and his loyalty was hard to guarantee. Having him as a subordinate was practically pointless. It would be better to recruit a few good-looking and promising individuals and cultivate them from a young age. First, their looks were pleasing to the eye, and second, their loyalty was guaranteed. Even if their strength wasn't as good as Kokuzu's, with the earth resentment granted by the system, they should be able to rise to Kokuzu's level. Such attractive and relatively capable subordinates would be quite prestigious to recruit. Therefore, recruiting Kokuzu was a rather underhanded move. And Kokuzu was indeed what Hyūga Teru took a liking to. It's probably time to count his money. Kokuzu loves money so much. Even if he started as a rebel ninja in his 20s, he must have been making money for 50 or 60 years. Even if he makes 100 million a year, that's probably 500 to 600 million, right? Just thinking about 500 to 600 million sounds like a lot, almost half of Hyūga's liquid assets. But Kokuzu wouldn't be so insignificant as to only make 100 million a year. Maybe he makes 500 to 600 million a year. After 50 to 60 years, he'd probably have tens of billions in savings. Thinking of this, Hyūga Teru's gaze at Kokuzu grew even more intense. By the way, Kokuzu, I heard you seem to love money. Do you have any cash on you right now? At this question, Kokuzu's eyes, suddenly filled with anticipation, began to waver. A look of pain appeared. His inhuman appearance, though not something many normal people experience, gave each of his black threads the sensation of eating. Thousands of black threads combined, making him eat with far greater energy than he did as a human. He earned so much money not to save for a wife, but to truly savor delicious food. Therefore, he made his money with integrity, never killing ordinary people, only accepting missions from underground bounty agencies. Eating was arguably his last remaining passion. Deprive him of his money, and he wouldn't be able to eat more and better, and life would have no meaning. Seeing Kokuzu's eyes welling up, Hyūga Teru looked a little strange. What's the matter? Don't you have any money on you, or are you unwilling to give? Why would you need so much money in your state? After all, you've lived a long time, so buying your life is worth it, right? Don't let your nearly infinite lifespan be wasted on a whim. For someone as lucrative as you, wouldn't it be a shame if you made the wrong choice? Kokuzu understood his predicament, but the thought still stung. To minimize the loss, he pursed his lips before speaking. I don't have any money on me, but I can take you, sir, to get it. But, how much do you need? Hyūga Teru pondered for a moment, then smiled. 20 billion, whatever. You've lived like this for 50 or 60 years. Earning 4 or 500 million a year shouldn't be a lot, right? Kokuzu's mouth twisted at that. Breathing became incredibly labored. The grievances in his brain tangled like a tangled mess. 20 billion. He diligently worked year after year, earning nearly 40 million Ryo each month to make that much? Unless he killed a ninja like Asuma, who commanded 35 million Ryo each month, he could easily secure 400 million a year. But Asuma was not only difficult to kill, but there was also a significant risk of being hunted down. And where in the world could he find so many asumas? Even if there were 12 asumas a year, that would still require 500 or 600 to earn the full 20 billion ryo. Sir, I really don't have that much money. Please ask for less. I can't afford too much. Seeing Kakuzu looking like he was on the verge of tears, Hyūga Teru's expression grew serious. Kakuzu, you must understand one thing. I'm not doing business with you now. I'm forcing you to give me something, and if you don't give it to me, you'll die. Money is a wonderful thing, but you can't bring it with you when you're born. How can you enjoy the beauty of money if you die? I don't want to tell you the same thing for the third time. If you don't give it to me, you'll die here today. Seeing Hyūga Teru's unyielding attitude, Kakuzu realized the severity of his situation. After a moment's silence, he nodded with deep sorrow. All right, sir, please follow me to the bank to get it. With these words, Kakuzu's strength drained from his body, and he collapsed to the ground. Hyūga Teru then gestured for Kakuzu to release Sasori's jaws. Scorpion of the Red Sand, you who pursue eternal art, you don't want to die, do you? Sasori had just witnessed Kakuzu's compromise. He had witnessed Kakuzu's once money-obsessed, his eyes sparkling. He gave in step by step, becoming a salted fish with lifeless eyes. Now it was finally his turn, and he knew that no matter how much he resisted, it was useless. He had no choice but to suppress his anger and lower his proud head. Eternal art is indeed my lifelong pursuit, but what do you want from me? I don't have as much money as Kakuzu. Hyūga Teru smiled and put one hand on the ground. A white light flashed by. A yellow mouse with golden hair, sharp eyes, and wearing the robe of the fourth generation appeared in front of the two. Pikachu, I don't know what this feeling is. Scorpion felt that this mouse seemed very extraordinary, especially the pair of indomitable eyes. It seemed that in the world, there was no place it could not go and no obstacle it could not jump over. This is actually a mouse? What are you going to do? Pull out a mouse? Do you want it to chew me? Thinking about the only fine puppet wood left on him, Scorpion felt that Hyūga might be planning this. Why do you think I pulled it out so it could chew you? Hyūga stroked the head of the eternal sister Pikachu, feeling it was a little soft, and continued. Although it looks like a mouse, it's actually a puppet, and it possesses immense power. I know you might not understand, but let me show you its power. Hyūga gazed down at Pikachu's smiling face, looking up at him, and immediately gave instructions. Pikachu, go find the other two mice hiding nearby. Defeat them, and bring them to me. The eternal sister Pikachu's docile smile immediately faded. A serious expression immediately appeared, and its short yellow paws raised in a salute to Hyūga. Pikachu. Chapter 73 Chihayo and Ebizo. No matter how serious Pikachu was, it was still incredibly adorable, making Scorpion think the rat was just playing around. But then a sudden gust of wind swept up, and Pikachu vanished in an instant, leaving Scorpion stunned. That speed seems far beyond the reach of an average Jonin. Hyūga Teru smiled and nodded. Of course, it's more than just a Jonin. Didn't you see the robes it's wearing? Scorpion couldn't help but stare, vaguely catching sight of the words Yongame Hokage, Fourth Raikage. A look of wonder crossed his face. You're dressing it like that? Are you trying to say it possesses the power of the Fourth Raikage, a mere yellow-skinned rat, with power comparable to the fourth? What a joke. Even if Scorpion's brain were 100 times bigger, he couldn't imagine this yellow-skinned rat possessing the power of the Fourth Raikage. If even a rat could possess the power of a Hokage, what were they? But then, streaks of golden light shone continuously, and the yellow-skinned rat actually dashed past several familiar puppets. Finally, a ball came down, knocking an old man unconscious. Then, he effortlessly defeated 10 familiar puppets and knocked the old woman unconscious. The moment the mouse finished dealing with the two, and its tiny hands touched them, it appeared beside Hyūga Teru in a flash. A short kunai, covered with a special talisman, was still biting its mouth. It looked murderous, as if it was still not satisfied. Pikachu, perhaps in response to the mission being completed, this tender cry was like the roar of a ferocious beast. It frightened Kakuzu so much that he trembled all over. It frightened Scorpion so much that his wooden jaw dropped to the ground. In fact, looking at the two captured elderly people, Scorpion's pupils shrank into slits. How could it be them? Seeing Scorpion so shocked, Hyūga Teru was also curious. But he had no impression of these two people. Suddenly, the system prompt sounded, telling him everything. Ling. Detected the host has captured Chihayo and Ebizo. Congratulations to the host for receiving a personalized sign-in for Chihayo and Ebizo's costumes. Chiyo and Ebizo's personalized sign-in. Within 1 hour, have Chiyo and Ebizo dress up in women's swimsuits and take a photo to receive a surprise gift package. Looking at Chiyo and Ebizo, Hyūga Teru's mouth twitched. They were both old and wrinkled, yet they were still wearing swimsuits. But since they weren't wearing them themselves, it was still acceptable for others to wear them. Taking a photo as a souvenir seemed a bit shameful. But the surprise gift package sounded like a good idea. At this moment, Scorpion saw Chiyo and Ebizo. They too had seen the Scorpion wrapped in a ball. His expression shifted between sadness, anger, and confusion. Scorpion, how did you turn yourself into a puppet? Chiyo was the first to lose her temper, asking sorrowfully. Ebizo followed suit with a sullen sigh. Scorpion, not only did you defect, but you also killed the third Kazekage. Do you know how much harm your actions have brought to the village? Before Scorpion could reply, Chiyo glared at him coldly. Ebizo, shut up. I've already killed you, and I'm not going to change you back. Ebizo opened his mouth to say something, but it got stuck in his throat. Scorpion, suddenly receiving the long-awaited care of his elderly family, remained expressionless. I should have thought of that. The village is so poor. You two would have come out to earn those 500 million, but don't worry about me. I can't control my life or death now, so why bother worrying about whether my body is a puppet? Scorpion said this, his eyes fixed on Pikachu, his eyes filled with deep curiosity. Only then did Chiyo and Ebizo regain their composure and stare at Hyūga Teru, who had been watching the show for a long time. Young man, what exactly do you want to do? Do you understand the risks you're taking by arresting us without any reason? Ebizo spoke. Chiyo's expression immediately turned cold. Young man, you'd better let us go. Do you know what our status is in Sunagakure? If anything happens to us, the entire village will hunt you down. Believe it or not, release us in Sasori, and we can pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, expect to be hunted down and killed. Kokuzu, facing Chiyo and Ebizo's simultaneous threats, Hyūga Teru wasn't afraid at all, he even felt like laughing. You two are truly ignorant. Don't you know what my little pet is capable of? Didn't you see the flying thunder god jutsu it just performed? Are you sure it can threaten me? Hearing Hyūga Teru's words, both of them widened their eyes. That rat just used, really, the flying thunder god jutsu? I thought I was getting presbyopic. Ebizo was stunned for a moment. Chiyo, however, looked at Hyūga Teru questioningly. Who the hell are you? Even a summoned beast can master the flying thunder god jutsu. Are you from Konoha? Hyūga Teru chuckled. Actually, it's just a puppet. You can assume it contains the soul of the Fourth Raikage, and I control it. As for whether I'm a Konoha member, that's for you to decide, but I'm warning you, if you don't make the right choice, none of you will survive today. See that guy over there, paralyzed like a dead fish? He's agreed to pay 20 billion for his life. You two should be able to give quite a bit, right? 20 billion. Ebizo's mouth opened and closed unsteadily, his eyes fixed on the paralyzed Kokuzu. As respected advisors to the Sand Village, they disguised themselves and used every possible means to raise 500 million ryo. Wasn't it because the village was incredibly poor? Some said their village was awash in gold, rich as hell. But Raza had single-handedly lowered the price of gold to the level of ordinary wood. And gold. Raza even used it in battles, mountain after mountain. If his body hadn't been sealed, he would have extorted Kokuzu 100 times on Hyūga Teru's behalf. Chiyo was also extremely shocked by Kokuzu's wealth. But she couldn't help but worry about herself, Ebizo, and Sasori. Young man, can you let us go if I give you dozens of tons of gold? Although the price of gold was generally low, it could still fetch a good price in some places with poor information. So Chiyo had an idea. However, Hyūga Teru had heard about the extremely low price of gold. How could he be fooled by Chiyo? You should keep the gold. I need something else from you. Please wait for a while, Hyūga Teru said, and with a reassured look, he walked towards the hotel. In the blink of an eye, he emerged with 2 swimsuits and a camera. Of course, these were not available at the hotel. Instead, they were purchased from dozens of kilometers away using the technique of heaven's delivery. Seeing the items he brought, Chiyo and Ebizo were very suspicious. Chapter 74 Kokuzu's perversion starts with taking photos. What are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate us with this clothing? Ebizo watched the woman's swimsuit creep closer and closer. Even someone who had experienced 3 great ninja world wars felt a strange sense of panic. Chihiyo's face was filled with disbelief. You're not going to make us wear this, are you? We're already so old, how could you possibly have such an idea? At this, Chihiyo hugged herself tightly, a look of unnatural embarrassment on her face. You're not going to be my secret admirer, are you? When I was younger, I was often called the desert flower. Seeing Chihiyo's bashful, childlike demeanor made Hyūga Teru feel a little nauseous. Kakuzu, come here. Kakuzu, though seemingly lifeless, immediately struggled to his feet at the sound of Hyūga Teru's voice. Flustered, he rushed to Hyūga Teru without hesitation. Sir, what can I do for you? Hyūga Teru immediately thrust the swimsuit and camera into Kakuzu's arms. Put these on them both. If they resist, hit them. Don't worry about getting hit. My pets have sealed their chakra. They're no longer Tsunagakure advisors. Remember to take pictures of them after you've dressed them. Keep taking pictures until I tell you to stop. Kakuzu, young man, what do you mean? It's fine if you want my sister to wear a swimsuit, but I have to wear one too. Ibizo was immediately furious, his face darkening to the extreme. Chihiyo was about to rebuke him, but when she heard what Ibizo said, her temper immediately soured. What do you mean it's fine if I wear it? Why can't I wear it? You're a man, so what? Ibizo was immediately embarrassed. He had just forgotten Chihiyo's dignity for his own sake, and now he had directly angered her. But, the most difficult part right now wasn't his sister's harassment. If he didn't resist, he'd have to wear a woman's swimsuit. Sister, please forgive me for my misstep. After apologizing, Ibizo immediately shouted at Hyūga Teru at the top of his lungs. Well, young man, I have a few puppets on me that are quite valuable. Could you please not let us take pictures in swimsuits? We're both quite old. It would be terrible if it got out. Puppet money and all that, compared to the sign-in bonus, was nothing. Hyūga Teru immediately adopted a stubborn, unyielding demeanor. No, my elders are particularly fond of you two and specifically asked to take pictures of you in swimsuits. Even though you're a bit old now, you can still take pictures. You'll need to show off your figure. I advise you to cooperate, or Kakuzu will force you. Kakuzu, upon hearing what Hyūga Teru said, Chihiyo and Ibizo's faces turned green. What kind of elder was this? He even asked them to wear swimsuits and take a photo. Even if he was an old acquaintance, he was already an old man, right? And he had such a bad taste. Maybe he was a pervert? They didn't know that this was just an excuse Hyūga Teru made up to get rid of the name of a pervert. If there was any perversion, it was naturally the system that was perverted. There was nothing wrong with treating the system as an elder. But at this moment, Chihiyo and Ibizo were more worried about Kakuzu, who was so close. This masked man with a murderous aura was said to be an S-rank rebel ninja. In the past, they would not have been afraid at all. But now, anyone who could become an S-rank rebel ninja was probably not a good person, maybe a murderous demon. He probably had many horrific methods of torture. Kakuzu was originally timid, but Hyūga Teru's support, coupled with the increasingly cowardly expressions of the two men in front of him, made him feel much bolder. I'm sorry, Scorpion. I can't help myself right now, but if they're willing to obey, I won't do anything to them. Do as you please, the two of you. I can't change anything anyway. Scorpion continued to stare at Pikachu, seemingly unconcerned with Chihiyo and Ibizo. Kakuzu's reluctance was now completely gone, and his fingers suddenly extended a large number of black threads. It's been a long time since I've eaten a human, but if you two won't obey, I'll let you enjoy the feeling of having these black threads burrowing into your bodies and swimming around. Kakuzu's eyes shone with bloodlust and perversion, and he slowly licked each black thread with a sizzling lick, as if to lubricate each one for easier entry. Seeing what Kakuzu was doing, Chihiyo and Ibizo's scalps tingled with fear. Even if they were decades younger, they wouldn't be able to handle this thick, black thread. And what's more, licking it full of saliva, how dirty would it be to put it into their bodies? The two stared at each other for a few seconds, their expressions instantly becoming determined. We'll put them on, don't worry too much, just take pictures however you want, we'll fully cooperate. Chihiyo and Ibizo were not restrained, but without chakra, they couldn't do anything and didn't dare to do anything reckless. But it was still very easy to put on clothes now. Although the two of them were full of resistance, they still put them on reluctantly. Chihiyo could still accept it. But Ibizo was in a terrible mood. As the wisest man of the Sand Village, when had he ever suffered such humiliating treatment? Everyone in the Sand Village treated him with respect, and wearing women's clothes was a treat he only had when he was a child. After he grew up, his sister didn't force him to wear them. Now he was forced to wear them by a junior, and he was constantly threatened by the rebel ninja of the small ninja village. It was really a lifelong shame. Although he was reluctant, Ebizo was actually no slower than Chiyo. The two put on their swimsuits quickly. But the sight of their wrinkled bodies, age spots, and leg hair made Kakuzu. Ugh! Kakuzu suddenly couldn't hold it in anymore, and started vomiting. What's going on, Kakuzu? Haven't you started yet? Hurry up and finish the photo shoot. Hyūga Teru's voice immediately set Kakuzu on fire. Yes, sir, I'll take your photo right away. Despite feeling unwell, Kakuzu fought back his nausea and began snapping photos. Bang, bang, bang. The old-fashioned camera continuously emitted dazzling flames, illuminating Chiyo and Ebizo. Hyūga Teru was a little puzzled by the fact that the system beep hadn't yet sounded. Kakuzu, take a few more photos, get them to do some different poses. Kakuzu didn't hesitate. Even though all his tentacles were spewing acid, he stood firm in front of the camera. You too, do some more poses, handstands, splits, try some more. Taking photos wasn't enough, but also doing handstands and splits. Chiyo and Ebizo were about to explode. This is too much, I will fight you. Ebizokachi's wisdom had already disappeared, and he immediately rushed in front of Kakuzu. Chapter 75 Amazing Gift Package. Swish. Kakuzu's tentacles instantly enveloped Ebizo, smearing him with green vomit in an instant. The stench of the vomit filled his entire body, leaving Ebizo's mouth drooling. Let, vomit, get away from me, you bastard, brother, vomit, brother, stop, vomit, resisting. Chiyo watched Ebizo's body covered in green slime, disgusting as a pile of feces, and she couldn't help but retching as well. He struggled for a while, but Kakuzu's tentacles tightened around him. Ebizo's breathing became increasingly difficult, and he suddenly felt his dignity was worthless in the face of his own safety. Let go, let me go, I agree to be photographed, I agree, he cried, practically tearing up. Kakuzu, though still observant, didn't dare to kill Ebizo, so he quickly let him go. His dignity, completely discarded for survival, left Ebizo like a dead dog. However, as he crawled to Chiyo's side, a glint of anger lingered in his eyes. Then, not only Chiyo, but Ebizo also cooperated with the photo shoot without hesitation. Very good. Ugh. Next pose, doggy style. After Kakuzu finished his instructions, Chiyo and Ebizo immediately responded and struck their poses. With a bang, the photo was taken. Kakuzu then gave his instructions without hesitation. Very good. Ugh. Next pose, one-legged stand. Another round of new poses, and dozens of them were completed in succession. Although Kakuzu had seen many blinding scenes, he had not yet adapted to the nausea. However, even when his black line sprayed green water all over the floor, he did not stop working. Such a respectful attitude made Hyūga Teru somewhat impressed. But the system notification sound was still not coming. This made Hyūga Teru wonder, was it already completed, or did he have to take the photo himself? Ahem. Kakuzu, hand me the film quickly. You don't have to shoot anymore. Yes. Kakuzu looked away with a sigh of relief, quickly and neatly removing the film from the camera and handing it to Hyūga Teru. Hyūga Teru took the film and, as expected, heard the system notification. Ling. Sign-in for Chiyo and Ebizo's costumes has been completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Divine Level Human Body Twisting Technique, the Divine Level Self-Reincarnation Technique, and 2 Super Shadow Puppets. Divine Level Human Body Twisting Technique. A person who can ignore the status powers of the 7 gates of the 8 gates of ninjutsu, connecting and controlling the human body with chakra lines, using them as puppets. Divine Level Self-Reincarnation Technique, consumes 10 chakras, without consuming life, and can heal any injuries of a dying person, even resurrecting the deceased with their bodies intact. Goodness, with these, there's really nothing to fear. If someone you care about dies, just resurrect them. Even the likes of Danzo wouldn't be able to pull any dirty tricks. But what surprised Hyūga even more was the arrival of 2 super shadow puppets. They were far more reliable than his subordinates. For example, while Minato's Pika couldn't speak, to prevent him from flirting with women, he could understand everything he said. In fact, from the very beginning, the system was simply based on the Minato template. If they were to use other characters, they could also produce Pika Itachi, Pika Hashirama, Pika Madara, and others. As for who would be best, Hinata hadn't made up his mind. He was leaning towards Pika Naruto, as he might be able to lend him some chakra. But he wasn't sure how much of Naruto's peak power Pika Naruto could match. What if he couldn't control the Nine Tails? Minato was at Super Shadow level, or even below, so it was conceivable. Naruto was more difficult to predict. As for Pika Itachi and Pika Hashirama, while they weren't particularly useful, their castrated versions were still very powerful and could still be used for show. Well, Kakuzu, you did well. Since you've behaved well, I'll leave you some money later and let you go as promised. Kakuzu was immediately moved and wiped away tears. Thank you, sir. Hyūga Teru then had Pikachu unseal Chiyo and Ebizo, allowing them to dress on their own. The two finally stopped looking so disgusted, and Hyūga Teru finally had time to talk to them about Scorpion. Actually, I won't give Scorpion to you. He's very talented, so I want to take him and have him make something for me. As for the third Kazekage, I really think it's too ugly. If you want it back, you can redeem it with money. Don't try any tricks, or you'll be in trouble. Although the third Kazekage was a puppet, it was precisely because of this puppetry that he retained a certain level of strength. For the now weakened Tsunagakure, acquiring a puppet with near cage level strength would be of great help. Concerned about not wasting money, Chiyo and Ebizo exchanged glances. Seeing the other's willingness to do so, Chiyo nodded. Sir, we've confirmed our intention to return Kazekage-sama to you. We just don't know how to contact you, and what the price would be. Hyūga Teru instructed the Minato pickup truck to deliver a small Flying Thunder God Kune to the two. He then said, "This is a special Flying Thunder God Kune. If you want to contact me, just inject your chakra into it. As for the price, it's hard to say. Your village seems quite poor, take whatever valuables you have, and make up 100 million. If you can't even come up with 100 million, forget it." Chiyo and Ebizo breathed a sigh of relief. While 100 million was a huge sum for Tsunagakure, it was still manageable. Furthermore, with a puppet nearing the level of Kazekage, if it was passed down through generations and well maintained, it might even be worth more than the 100 million. With such a good deal, the two naturally knew which option to choose. But Chiyo still couldn't let go of Scorpion, her eyes fixed on him. "Sir, Scorpion, can't he come back with us?" Hyūga Teru said decisively. "If he proves to be useless to me, I'll return him to you. Then, just like the third Kazekage, I'll trade him for the 100 million worth of items or money, but if he proves to be truly useful to me, then he'll have to stay with me. But there's no need to grieve too much. I treat my subordinates, or rather, talents, as long as they obey me, with all due respect." Despite Chiyo's reluctance, Ebizo persuaded her to give up the idea of continuing to ask for Scorpion. Continuing to ask for him would be sheer audacity. After all, against Hyūga Teru, whose summoned beasts were as powerful as Minato's, they stood no chance. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.